What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
12 et. Chapter 291 Going out to find a strong man. Advertisement. But these three people are trying to find ways to fight against Monk. I really don't know what they are going to do. Say they are stupid, but they are also very shrewd in what they do. It is said that they are shrewd, but they lose the chain at such a critical time. After hearing what Sengoku said, Akainu and the other three Marines, Admiral, pondered seriously for a while. Then Akainu spoke to Sengoku again. Marshal Sengoku, did the celestial dragons die in vain? At this moment, Sengoku also answered to Akainu. He's dead and he's dead, what does it matter to us? Although it is said that our naval headquarters is in response to the request of the world government to protect the celestial dragons. But since the celestial dragons are actively seeking death, can we still avoid this matter? So, he died when he died, and Monk is the culprit anyway, not us. Quote. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore, I still have some things to deal with here. The three of you should leave quickly and don't bother me anymore. Quote. After saying this, Sengoku also waved his hand, indicating that the three of them can leave. After Marine 3 Admiral was driven away by Sengoku, he also turned around and left here helplessly. Advertisement. After the three left, Sengoku also sighed slightly. Now Sengoku has to think about apologizing to Monk after that. These three people really don't know what to say. This made Sengoku feel tired for a while. Monk is also waiting quietly, and the warden commands the strong men in the prison to successfully transform the underground world. At this time, the underground world has already taken shape. But it is far from being able to live. Monk also found the warden, and asked the warden when the underground world could be inhabited. The warden pondered for a while, and then responded to Monk. After hearing the warden's answer, Monk also understood that the distant underground world was completely successfully built. It also takes half a month. Monk, who has an idea in mind, is also planning to do something within this half month. Use this to expand your underground world. Although it is said that there are many prison powerhouses in his own underground world to act as subordinates. But who would think that there are too many subordinates? 0 for flowers. Advertisement. So Monk is also going to find some strong men to make them submit to him. In order to expand the strength of their own underground world. If you plan well, then the underground world is likely to become the next world government. Thinking of this, Monk couldn't help laughing happily. Then he also began to act for his own ambition. 0. Before the action, Monk also found the warden. At this moment, Monk also spoke forcefully to the warden. Prisoner, I'm going to leave here for a while. It's up to you to handle it here. You must take good care of those strong men in the prison, so that they can quickly complete the construction of the underground world. At this time, the warden also had to ask Monk's whereabouts. And also asked Monk what he was doing. Monk also smiled slightly after hearing the warden's question. Then he answered to the warden. Since the underground world is about to be successfully built, then I can't stay here for a long time without doing anything. Advertisement. Chapter 292 Lost to Naval Headquarters. Advertisement. My idea is to find some powerful people. Then take them as my subordinates so that they can work for me. If I find more people, then our underground world will be able to compete with the world government. And your power will also rise and become huge. As long as I can have the right to speak, then you will be able to stay in this position of being under one person and above 10,000 people for a long time. After the words, 353, Monk also patted the warden on the shoulder, and encouraged the warden. I have to say that what Monk said really worked. After hearing Monk's words, the warden's blood boiled with excitement. He is also full of enthusiasm now. Then he patted his chest and expressed it to Monk. After that, Monk will never be disappointed by his side. He will definitely finish the matter as soon as possible. After getting the promise from the warden, Monk left the underground world happily. Then he left the seabed and began to swim around the world. I want to use this to find some powerful and relatively less evil people. Advertisement. Monk was also in the process of finding someone, and got lost, so that he arrived at naval headquarters in a daze. When he was here, Monk also felt a little helpless. After he scratched the back of his head, he also turned around and wanted to leave here. But at this moment, he heard a frivolous voice. Monk, since we've all come here, what else are we going to do? Follow me into naval headquarters. Marshal Sengoku still wants to meet you. Quote. Monk also heard the reputation, and then saw Kizaru standing there. Then Monk also nodded, walking forward confidently. When he came to Kizaru's side, he also spoke to Kizaru. Okay, since you invited me so much, I have no reason to refuse. Now you led me the way, I'll meet Sengoku. Quote. After saying this, Monk also urged Kizaru to lead him the way. After hearing what Monk said, Kizaru couldn't help being surprised. He didn't expect that Monk would still be so bold when he came here. Advertisement. Not even a trace of panic. 0. Kizaru also compares himself to Monk. But when he found that he couldn't do Monk's calmness at all, he felt a little ashamed. After that, he honestly led the way in front of Monk. Soon, Monk also met Sengoku and Garp under the leadership of Kizaru. Monk's power fluctuations are just too obvious. So, not only Garp but also Sengoku are aware of it. In order to show respect for themselves and others, they all came here to meet Monk. Monk smiled slightly when he saw the three older marine powerhouses in front of him. Sengoku also asked Monk at this moment. Monk, I don't know why you came here in 2.8. Monk heard Sengoku's. After asking, he smiled awkwardly. Then he also spoke to Sengoku and Garp. If I say that I came here because I got lost, would you believe me? After everyone in naval headquarters heard Monk's words. Advertisement. Chapter 293 Many Treasures. Advertisement. He couldn't help but look at Monk with strange eyes. One after another revealed expressions of disbelief. At this time, Monk spoke again in embarrassment. Believe it or not, I really got lost and came here. I'm not coming to your naval headquarters. My idea is to find some like-minded and powerful people, and then let them join my underground world. After saying this, Monk also fell silent. At this time, Monk told these people about his real purpose. That's also because, Monk believes that they will definitely not fail to investigate themselves. And in the past, he had confronted Marine 3 Admiral. These 10 or 3 guys will definitely come back and talk to naval headquarters about their situation. So, there is no need for me to hide from these people. What's more, even if you say it yourself, can these people be against yourself? Once these people express any objection, their own side will take action instantly and make them pay the price. So Monk is not afraid at all. Advertisement. He is now a surefire winner. Sengoku was also slightly taken aback at this moment. He didn't expect that Monk would be so honest. Before he could ask himself, he talked about the things in the underground world. Sengoku also considered his words at this moment, and asked Monk forcefully. Monk, I also have a question now, I wonder if you can answer it. Monk also nodded when he heard the words, and then stretched out his hand towards Sengoku to signal. Indicates that Sengoku can ask whatever he wants, and whether he answers or not depends on the specific situation. Sengoku also asked Monk loudly at this moment. I don't know why you occupy our submarine prison, why? And why build an underworld there? Are you provoking us naval headquarters? Although, in terms of overall strength, our naval headquarters may not be able to beat you. But if we try our best, we will make you pay the price. Quote. After saying this, not only Sengoku, but even Suru Vice Admiral and others looked at Monk seriously. Advertisement. Waiting for Monk to explain. Monk also pondered for a moment after hearing Sengoku's inquiry. Then he also spoke forcefully to Sengoku. I also went to the submarine prison out of curiosity. Occupying it was also a whim on my mind, but I didn't have the idea of provoking naval headquarters at all. And this time, I can definitely pay a certain price for my previous behavior. Quote. Don't you always want the treasure in my hand? Exactly 350, I still have some extra. I give you some of you. After that, don't say anything more about this matter. As long as this matter is over, how about it? After saying this, Monk also looked meaningfully at the numerous naval headquarters generals ahead. After hearing what Monk said, Sengoku, Suru Vice Admiral and the others couldn't help but look at each other. Then Sengoku also opened his eyes and said to Monk. Well, if that's the case, then we forgive you. But how much treasure do you have to pay to let this matter pass? Advertisement. Chapter 294 Sincerity, please help. Advertisement. After Sengoku said this, he also looked at Monk with burning eyes. Waiting for Monk to take out some of his treasures. After hearing Sengoku's words, Monk smiled slightly. He also roughly guessed what Sengoku was thinking at this time. After that, he made a decisive decision and took out all the treasures he had kept. In Monk's view, these treasures are really useless. But in the eyes of Sengoku and Crane Vice Admiral and others, it is a treasure. When Monk took out those treasures and put them on the table, the eyes of everyone in naval headquarters were also locked on those treasures one after another. All of them were staring, as if they were hungry wolves who had eaten meat. Monk coughed slightly when he saw how many people were fascinated. In this way, Sengoku et al. After Sengoku heard Monk's light cough, he also reacted instantly. Then he glanced at Monk in embarrassment. Then he also raised his head, and said to Monk forcefully. Advertisement. Well, since you are so sincere, you have sent these treasures here. Then we can't say anything more. I put away these treasures. After that, the grievances between the two of us will stop here. I won't be looking for you to rob the submarine prison. When the time comes when your underground world is successfully established, you can also send me a message, and then I will go to congratulate you. After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk also smiled slightly. Then Monk suddenly remembered his purpose of leaving the underground world. I only heard Monk speaking to Sengoku at this time. Sengoku, my purpose of leaving the underground world is to find some powerful people in this world. And strong like-minded people with me. Then let them submit to me, so as to manage the underground world together with me. But because I got lost, I came to your naval headquarters. So it was also a delay for a certain amount of time. Quote. Since the grievances between us have been completely resolved. So can I propose cooperation with you now, and let you help me find some qualified experts. Advertisement. After hearing what Monk said, Sengoku pondered for a moment. Then, after thinking about the pros and cons, he nodded. He felt that he would not lose anything here. Seeing Sengoku nodding, Monk also smiled in relief. Then he also spoke to Sengoku, sonorously. Quote. Backquote Sengoku, don't worry, I won't be stingy here. You can release the news right now to let those strong men know about my conditions for recruiting them. As long as they surrender to me, I will give them a few treasures. And in the future, as long as I have treasures, I will share them with them. And on your side, I will also help you. Okay. After hearing what Monk said, Sengoku nodded again and again. He also has some new ideas at the moment. But he dared not make a decision on this. Because no matter what Naval Headquarters said, it was decided by several people. Even though he himself is the Marshal of Marine, Vice Admiral, Garp and others also have a certain right to make decisions. Afterwards, Garp also spoke to Monk after deliberating his words. Advertisement. Chapter 295 Naval Headquarters. Advertisement. Monk, now that you've come to our Naval Headquarters. Then don't leave immediately. You first stay in my Naval Headquarters for a while. Then after we have entertained you here, it's not too late for you to leave. And we are here to help you recruit people, and you also need to screen here. If you just leave so hastily, then we won't look for you. In that case, a lot of time will definitely be wasted. Don't you think so? After saying this, he also looked at Monk inquisitively. After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk also nodded at 517, thinking that what Sengoku said was indeed reasonable. Afterwards, he also immediately decided to stay here at Naval Headquarters for a period of time. Seeing that he had persuaded Monk, Sengoku was also very happy. Then he also asked Kizaru to take Monk down, and asked Kizaru to arrange a residence for Monk. Let Monk stay here for a while. After Kizaru left, Suru Vice Admiral also said to Sengoku suspiciously. Sengoku, tell me about your purpose. Advertisement. There was something wrong with your expression just now. We are very familiar with each other. Every move you make, I can guess your next move. Quote. Garp, Zephyr and others also nodded. Then they looked at Sengoku together, waiting for Sengoku to talk about his thoughts. Sengoku also smiled at this moment, and after deliberating his words, he asked a few people. Guys, what do you think of Monk's underground world? After saying this, he also raised his eyebrows and looked at several people. Would like to hear some people's opinions. At this time, Crane Vice Admiral also pondered for a moment, then answered to Sengoku. I have to say that Monk is also very flexible in his mind. His underground world, if it is successfully constructed, will be under Monk's management after that. It is very likely to have a battle with the world government. Baff, but if you want to say that it is optimistic, I am not very optimistic. Quote. After saying this, Crane Vice Admiral also fell silent. At this time, Garp also spoke to Sengoku in a low voice. There's something about the underworld that this guy Monk made. Advertisement. I feel great. Anyway, in my opinion, if I were asked to do it, I would definitely not be able to do it. Quote. Crane, Vice Admiral and Garp both thought Sengoku was asking them what they thought of the underground world. But Zephyr did have some doubts. Then he also frowned, and said to Sengoku. Sengoku, tell me what you think. I don't think you're just asking how to look at the underground world. Quote. Sengoku also smiled slightly after hearing Zephyr's words. Then, under the suspicious eyes of the three, he spoke to several people. My thought is, since there's so much room for growth on Monk's side. So why don't we take Naval Headquarters and go to Monk? He Vice Admiral waved his hands again and again at this moment, expressing his absolute disapproval. But Garp's words also made Crane Vice Admiral fall into deep thought. Monk guy said it. Anyone who takes refuge in him will be rewarded with treasures. You also saw these treasures on the table. These treasures are very powerful, and when the time comes, I will take refuge in Monk and become Monk's own people. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 296 How about my naval headquarters? Advertisement. In that case, Monk will never be stingy. The treasures he gave must be one level higher than these things. Let me tell you, it is also possible to take refuge in Monk. I support Sengoku. Quote. Zephyr didn't speak at this moment, just nodded. But everyone knows his attitude. Crane Vice Admiral could only nod helplessly after looking at the three of them. Now that these people have agreed to take the naval headquarters, they have surrendered to Monk. How can I refuse on my own side, so what can I do? It's already 3-1, no matter how you say it, I can't decide the result. Just like that, he also nodded helplessly. Then he asked suspiciously. Now that I'm ready to surrender to Monk, so who's going to say it? After hearing what Crane Vice Admiral said, Garp also smiled. Then he took a few steps back. Zephyr said nothing, but his movements were not slow. Advertisement. Crane Vice Admiral rolled her eyes quickly when she saw the two retreating. Then he followed the two towards the door. After walking to the door, Crane Vice Admiral also turned his head and said to Sengoku with a half smile. Just pretend that I didn't ask. It's up to you to solve this matter. Quote. After saying this, the three of them also turned and left. Sengoku sat on the seat and watched the three of them leave helplessly. He also felt very helpless. Then he also started to think about his words, carefully thinking about how he would tell Monk when he saw him. After thinking for a while, he also finished the draft. Afterwards, he also took steps, striding towards the room where Monk was staying. When Monk stayed in the residence, he did not forget to use his own power to perceive. He also suddenly discovered that Sengoku's power was slowly approaching. Then he also opened the door of the room, and looked towards Sengoku who was getting closer. Then he looked at Sengoku suspiciously, wanting to hear what Sengoku had to say. At this time Monk was also very puzzled. He just left from Sengoku, but Sengoku found himself again. Advertisement. This made Monk a little confused. Could it be that Sengoku has already summoned the strong ones so quickly? Thinking of this, Monk's eyes suddenly lit up. Then he also spoke to Sengoku. Sengoku, have you found a suitable strongman yet? After saying this, he also waited for Sengoku's answer. Sengoku was also slightly taken aback after hearing Monk's question. Then he understood what Monk meant. At this moment, he also said to Monk with a wry smile. How can it be so fast? You just finished talking about this matter, and I haven't acted yet. After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Then he asked Sengoku back. Then what are you doing here looking for me? After saying this, Monk also looked at Sengoku suspiciously, waiting for Sengoku to explain his purpose of coming. At this time, Sengoku also considered his wording. Then he said to Meng Clang forcefully, Monk, what do you think of my naval headquarters? Monk was also slightly taken aback, and then said three helplessly. Advertisement. Chapter 297. Advertisement. Naval headquarters is nice, what's the matter? Sengoku also spoke mysteriously again. If I said to merge naval headquarters into your underground world, would you be willing? After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk couldn't help frowning. He didn't know what kind of medicine was sold in the Sengoku gourd at this time. Why would you say such a thing? In the end, Monk was also 167, impatient, and said to Sengoku. Sengoku, speak up if you have something to say, don't play charades with me. What exactly are you trying to do? After saying this, Monk folded his arms and looked at Sengoku indifferently. Sengoku also felt very helpless at this moment. Then he said to Monk in a hurry. My idea is to let my naval headquarters merge into your underground world. You also said before that you will give treasures to those who join the underground world. We are also willing to take refuge in you because of these treasures. Advertisement. Now that I have made my words clear, you can say whether you want or not. After hearing Sengoku's question, Monk nodded his head. If you say no at this time, you are undoubtedly a fool. Monk is not a fool, so he will not refuse. Then Monk hurriedly greeted Sengoku. But Sengoku waved his hand at this time, saying that he and others would not surrender to Monk for nothing. Treasures need to be obtained, and then they will seek refuge with Monk, and some of their rights must also be obtained. After not being able to surrender to Monk with naval headquarters, there is nothing left by that time. In that case, they might as well not surrender to Monk. After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk smiled slightly. Then he patted his chest and expressed to Sengoku that he would never make things difficult for Sengoku and others. Since Sengoku and others are so sincere, they are going to bring naval headquarters into the underground world. Then if you are stingy on your own side, it will be unreasonable. I only heard Monk promise to Sengoku at this time. Sengoku, don't worry, as long as you take naval headquarters and merge into my underground world. Advertisement. Then after this, those of you naval headquarters still retain the original power. 0012508410 Filu 210,582,120. You people are directly under my command, and others are not qualified to command you, how about it? Are these conditions reasonable? After hearing what Monk said, Sengoku also nodded. Then he also spoke to Monk. In that case, then I will go and have a good talk with those marine soldiers. Then convey this matter to the public. As long as they agree, then I will take them to set off immediately and return to your underground world with you. After hearing what Sengoku said, Monk waved his hands again and again. Said that on his side, it is still necessary for Sengoku and others to stay in naval headquarters for a period of time 1.2. Because the construction facilities in the underground world have not been completely built yet. It will take more than 10 days to complete the construction. After hearing Monk's words, Sengoku also nodded, thinking secretly. This is exactly what I want. If I want to make this matter safer, then I have to have a good talk with those marine soldiers. Advertisement. Chapter 298. Prepare to go to the underground world. Advertisement. And this time and again, the time will be much more. It is impossible for him to resolve this matter within a few days. So, I still need a certain amount of time. These 10 days and a half months were just enough to make myself fully prepared to persuade those marine soldiers. So that they can go to the underground world with themselves and others. Thinking of this, he bid farewell to Monk and left here. After that, they also started to make arrangements, preparing to lead all the soldiers of the 10th Navy headquarters, and follow Monk into the underground world. Monk has nothing to do these days. He was also unexpected, he thought he would be very tired before. To be able to summon some strong people, so as to take refuge in themselves. But I didn't expect it, because I got lost for a while. I came to naval headquarters inexplicably. Then inexplicably, let Sengoku prepare to bring many marines from naval headquarters to seek refuge with himself. This is also a dream that makes Monk feel a burst of dreams. This is called breaking through the iron shoes and finding nowhere to find it. It takes no effort to get it. There is no need for Monk to work hard at all, and all things come one after another, which makes Monk feel relaxed and happy. Advertisement. Sengoku is also starting to find people here. Now that Garp and others already know about this. Then he doesn't have to consult with them anymore. His primary goal now is to persuade Marine 3 Admiral. At this moment, Marine 3 Admiral also stood in front of Sengoku. He looked at Sengoku suspiciously. At this moment, Akainu also asked Sengoku in doubt. Generalissimo Sengoku, I don't know if you told us to come here, do you have something to tell us? After saying this, he also looked at Sengoku quietly. Waiting for Sengoku to talk about things. Sengoku also considered his wording at this time. Then he spoke to Marine 3 Admiral. I asked you to come here, just to discuss with you something that is more beneficial to our naval headquarters. This sentence also made Marine 3 Admiral instantly interested. Then the three of them also pricked up their ears, wanting to hear what Sengoku said next. Sengoku also smiled slightly at this moment. Advertisement. Then he spoke to the three of them in a sonorous and forceful voice. Before Monk came here, I believe you must already know. But the purpose of Monk, I believe you must not know. That being the case, let me tell you something. Monk came this time because he wanted us to help him find some strong players. Then let these powerful people merge into their underground world. It's just my thoughts. I just want to lead our naval headquarters into Monk's 357 underground world. At this moment, Marine 3 Admiral also waved his hands again and again, showing that he and others were unwilling to go. But he was persuaded by Sengoku's words. Monk also said before, as long as you take refuge in Monk, then Monk will select some treasures and give them to those who take refuge in him. Are you three sure you plan to go to the underground world with us? This sentence was also spoken by Marine 3. Admiral was speechless. After the three of them gestured to each other, they also made a decision, and they listened to Sengoku's words and took refuge in Mengshan. Now that Sengoku, as Marshal of the Marine, has already made a decision. Then the three of them don't need to think about those useless things anymore. Advertisement. Chapter 299 The underground world was successfully constructed. Advertisement. Just like that, the three of them also nodded together at this time. Said that he and others were willing to follow and join Monk. Sengoku also smiled slightly when he saw the three nodding. At this time, the three of them have also agreed with their views. Then next, you don't have to worry too much. Then he asked these three people to help him because of lobbying. In a short time, all the Marine officers and soldiers of naval headquarters were united with Sengoku and prepared to join Monk. In this way, under the leadership of Monk, naval headquarters also began to migrate. Then they came to the underground world that had been completely built together. When he reached the underground world, Monk was also shocked by the scene ahead. He also never thought that the warden could build such a luxurious underground world. It looks like a palace in the sky. Monk was so shocked. The Marines of the many naval headquarters who followed behind him also widened their eyes and opened their mouths. I can't believe it. Advertisement. Among them, Marine and Admiral were the most shocked. They have been to the submarine prison before, and they have also entered here. At that time, it was also run down. But unexpectedly, it has only been a few days, and this place has changed. I have to say that Monk really admired everyone. Monk also waved his hands towards several people at this moment, and then prepared them to enter the underground Shichi. Just like that, everyone woke up from the shock. Then they followed behind Monk and entered the very luxurious-looking palace together. After entering here, Monk also looked around. He found that the layout inside was a bit strange, and he couldn't find the entrance and exit. A strong man in the prison outside was also given the position of guard by the warden. After seeing Monk coming, he leaned towards Monk's side like a dog's leg. At this time, Monk also asked the prison strong man in doubt. How did I get into the underground world? How did it get so complicated? After hearing Monk's words, the strong man in the prison hurriedly led Monk to a huge stone statue. Advertisement. Then he pointed to a door behind the stone statue with his finger. Monk also suddenly realized at this moment. Then he also entered the door with many Marines. After passing through several stairs, Monk also led everyone down to the underground world. In the underground world, the warden who had been waiting for a long time was also disturbed by the noise. Then, he also rushed to appear at the necessary intersection to enter the underground world. I want to see who is so bold and dare to make noise here. After he saw Monk, he restrained those angry emotions instantly. Then he quickly appeared in front of Li's Monk. After he took 2 quick steps, he slowly slowed down. Because at this time, he also saw the Marines behind Monk. Then he also looked at these people suspiciously. Then he acted vigilantly. After seeing the warden's behavior, Monk also smiled slightly, and understood what the warden was thinking at this time. Then he also quickened his pace and met the warden Mai. Advertisement. Chapter 300 World Government Leader Anger. Advertisement. Then he patted the warden on the shoulder and said to the warden. Prisoner, you don't need to be so nervous, these people are all surrendering to me. After hearing Monk's words, the warden couldn't help but widen his eyes. He didn't believe what Monk said. The number of people following Monk has the number of people that naval headquarters should have. How could they all surrender to Monk? Monk must be bragging. His unbelievable expression was also seen by Monk. Monk spoke again to the warden at this moment. Don't you believe me? They have indeed been subdued by me. The entire naval headquarters is now ready to be incorporated into our underground world. Then you can work hard. 647. Strive to count these naval headquarters people on the list as early as possible. Then let them completely merge into our underground world. Quote. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk also patted the warden on the shoulder. In Monk's view, the job of the warden is also very difficult. Therefore, he felt that the warden needed encouragement at this time. The warden was still smiling when he heard the first few words of Monk. But when he heard what Monk said afterwards, he made a bitter face. When he counted those prison powerhouses before, it was also, batty, a little difficult to handle. But because when these guys were put in prison before, there were records. So that he can relax a little bit. But these naval headquarters guys, he doesn't have a list. If you want to count, you can only count again. And saw the large group of Marines following Monk. The warden was also unable to see their number with the naked eye. At this time, the warden was also very helpless. But since Monk is willing to entrust him with this task, it can also show that Monk is very optimistic about him. So the warden is not going to refuse on this matter. Finally, he bid farewell to Monk and started counting the number of people. Advertisement. After watching the warden leave, Monk also led Sengoku and others towards the open areas of the underground world. There are also some buildings there. And before that, Monk also asked for the warden. The warden rebuilt it according to the construction of naval headquarters. So, most of the terrain here is similar to naval headquarters. Therefore, Monk found a building very similar to naval headquarters without much effort. Then they entered there with Sengoku and others and took Marine, where they stayed. Sengoku also made a decisive decision to stop here with many Marines. In this way, with the addition of naval headquarters to Monk's underground world, it has also become very powerful. From Monk's point of view, if he was asked to fight against the world government, Monk would dare to give it a try. Even in Monk's view, there is a 70% chance of defeating the world government. And just when Monk was acting aggressively, the world government also got the news that naval headquarters, all of them had defected to Monk. This made these people very angry. World government is also carefully cultivating naval headquarters. Unexpectedly, naval headquarters actually changed their team and joined Monk. The leader of naval headquarters also looked angry at this moment, looking at the cowering man in front of him. Advertisement. Chapter 301 Special Department. Advertisement. This person is a staff member of the Special Department of the World Government. He is in charge of investigative intelligence work. After he conveyed the information to the leader of the world government, the other party has been looking at him like this. This made him feel flustered too. I'm afraid that the leader of the world government will suddenly kill him. After staring at the intelligence personnel in front for a while, the leader of the world government restrained his emotions. It was back to the same as usual, with a flat face when encountering everything. At this moment, he also spoke to the intelligence officer in front of him. Go and call all the people in the combat department, and say that I have a mission to assign to them. After hearing the words of the head of the world government, the intelligence personnel also hurriedly nodded. Then he left in a hurry. Here. His speed at this moment is also very fast, almost running. It's not because he runs fast. Because in his opinion, if he ran a little slower, the leader of the world government would definitely be unable to resist beheading himself. But now this embarrassment is also for his own survival. So, there is no shame in doing so. Advertisement. The leader of the world government couldn't help snorting coldly after watching the intelligence officer leave. But I can't help thinking secretly in my heart. These naval headquarters guys are really a bit of a wolf. He turned to Monk at this moment. He also wanted to make a quick decision and send troops to wipe out all the people in naval headquarters. But after thinking about it again, he found that even if he sent people from his side, there was no way to defeat the people from naval headquarters. Because both Sengoku and Zephyr are on Monk's side. Even Marine 3 Admiral has been incorporated into the underground world. Sending some people from the combat department to go there will not have any effect at all. 1 dies 1, 2 dies 1 pair. As long as it is not a big war, it is useless even if you send many people. Therefore, he must now think of a comprehensive solution. In order to make some people in naval headquarters return to themselves. When the time comes, let them continue to lurk beside Monk, cooperating from inside to outside. Then all the people in the underground world can be eradicated. This time, the leader of the world government is not going to show mercy. Advertisement. He wants to eradicate Monk to prevent this fellow Monk from being a demon again. Zero seeking flowers. And just as he was thinking about it, the personnel of the world government's combat department also came in front of the world government leader. Then he was also waiting for the order from the leader of the world government. At this moment, the leader of the world government also spoke forcefully to the combatants in front of him. I will give you a task right now, and you will then bring a message to the underground world. So find the Marine 3 Admiral, and then cooperate with the 3 of them. The inside should cooperate with the outside to destroy the underground world. Can you do this task? After hearing the words of the world government leader, the fighters nodded again and again. Said that he would definitely be able to do this. Afterwards, he also turned around and left here under the signal of the leader of the world government. The destination is the underground world. After the combatant left, he also quickly came to the periphery of the underground world. Because there are too many people on the opposite side of Monk. So much so that he has no way to sneak into the underground world. Even at night, there will be many people guarding here. Advertisement. Chapter 302 Communication with Kizaru. Advertisement. So, this combatant can only wait for Marine 3 Admiral to come out by himself. In this way, after waiting for 4 days in a row, he became a little impatient. But then I thought about it again, if I don't handle this matter well, I will go back. The leader of the world government will definitely pick his own skin. Thinking of this, the combatant couldn't help but fight a cold war. Afterwards, he looked forward with a firm gaze, waiting for Marine 3 Admiral to appear. Kizaru among the Marine 3 Admirals also had nothing to do, so he also left the underground world. Want to find some pirates. And just when he left the underground world, he also noticed that someone was watching him. Then he also dodged, using the power of sparkling fruit to appear beside the world government fighters. Then he also said in a cold voice, "What are you doing here?" At this time Kizaru has also recognized the other party's identity. After hearing Kizaru's voice, the combatant also hastily said to Kizaru sonorously, "I came here because of the orders of our leader. Advertisement. He wants me to come here and discuss cooperation with you." Quote. After hearing what the other party said, Kizaru couldn't help being surprised. Then he asked suspiciously, "Since that's the case, why don't you tell me about it? What exactly do you want to cooperate with?" At this time, Kizaru is also interested. "I have followed naval headquarters and surrendered to Monk. Doesn't the head of the world government know about this? Are you still foolish enough to want to cooperate with yourself?" After hearing Kizaru's question, the combatants also considered their words carefully. Then he spoke forcefully to Kizaru. "Our leader said that we want to cooperate with you, Shigu and others. Together, plan for the underground world. After that, after the two of us have reached a cooperation, we can cooperate to destroy the underground world. At that time, the world government will have a place for you." Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Kizaru quietly. Advertisement. Waiting for Kizaru's reply. After hearing the words of this combatant, Kizaru also thought carefully. 0. After thinking for a while, he also spoke to the fighters in front of him. "I can't make a decision on this matter, I still have to discuss it with other people. Since you want to work with me and Akainu and Aokiji, then I should ask the opinions of both of them. At that time, if the two of them are willing, we will definitely cooperate with the leader of the world government. At that time, needless to say, we will also take the initiative to contact the leader of the world government. But if we don't agree, then you don't need me to wait any longer." Quote. After saying this, Kizaru also waved his hand at the world government fighter in front of him. Indicate that the other party can leave. 5.6. After hearing Kizaru's words, the world government fighter also nodded. Then he turned around and left here straightforwardly. After watching the other party leave, Kizaru's thought of going out for a trip also dissipated at this moment. He is also in the mood. Then he returned to the underground world again. Advertisement. Chapter 303 Your opinion. Advertisement. After he returned to the underground world, he found Aokiji immediately. After finding Aokiji, he also told the other party what happened just now. Let the other person decide. After hearing this sentence, Aokiji couldn't help frowning. Then he spoke to Kizaru. "Don't ask me for my opinion, tell me first, what is your opinion? Are you going to cooperate with the head of the world government? Or not to cooperate with him?" After hearing Aokiji's question, Kizaru also chuckled lightly, but did not answer. At this time, Aokiji understood Kizaru's thoughts instantly. Then he also stood up and spoke to Kizaru. "I haven't figured it out yet, let's find Kaiten and talk to Akainu first. Find out what exactly Akainu means." Quote. After saying this, he also took the lead in walking forward. Kizaru also followed Aokiji at this time, and followed step by step. Soon, the two of them arrived outside Akainu's residence. Akainu was also very surprised after feeling the breath fluctuations of the two. Advertisement. He didn't understand why the two of them found themselves at this time. Then he also walked to the door, and after opening the door, he looked at the two of them suspiciously. At this time, Aokiji also gestured towards Kizaru, asking Kizaru to tell Akainu what he had encountered before. Kizaru also cleared his throat at this time. Then he said it again to Akainu. After hearing Kizaru's words, Akainu couldn't help frowning. Then he smiled coldly. Kizaru also looked at Akainu suspiciously at this time. Want to hear Akainu's thoughts? At this time, Akainu also said coldly. "The leader of the world government, is he really ABCH? He actually wanted to be an empty-handed white wolf. Our side has already turned to Monk. And also at Monk, got a series of treasures. Then we don't have to betray Monk. But the leader of the world government is going to use some empty words to ask us to cooperate with him against Monk." Advertisement. This guy is also a little too self-righteous. Quote. After saying this, he also stared at Aokiji and Kizaru. Then he spoke to the two of them. "You two don't want to join the leader of the world government, do you?" Kizaru and Aokiji also waved their hands again and again at this moment, expressing that they and others have not been confirmed yet. This time, I also want to ask Akainu what Akainu means. Akainu also directly stated at this moment that he would never seek refuge with the leader of the world government. Since they have already followed naval headquarters, they have been merged into the 597 underground world together. Then he is not going to toss anymore. After hearing Akainu's statement, Kizaru also nodded. Then the two of them also made a decision. That is to not cooperate with the world government leader as before. The leader of the world government also waited for the report after seeing the combatants come back. At this time, the fighters also spoke forcefully to the leader of the world government. "Leader, this time, I also came into contact with Kizaru among the Marine 3 admirals. After Kizaru heard the conditions I said, he did not express his position." Advertisement. Chapter 304 The attitude is not so obvious. Advertisement. But his attitude is a little less obvious. In my opinion, he may be ready to cooperate with our side. Quote. He also said later that he would go back and mention this matter to Akainu and Aokiji. If they agree, they will give us a response. If they don't agree, they will disappear and will not contact us. Quote. After finishing these words, he also became quiet. After hearing the report of the fighters, the leader of the world government couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Then, he also slapped his thigh suddenly. It suddenly occurred to me that the decision I made before was a bit too hasty. I sent someone to tell Kizaru about it so early. Kizaru would definitely not want to. Because not only did he not get any benefits, there are even a lot of risks to be taken, so Kizaru will definitely not compromise on this. Then he sighed helplessly, and then spoke to the fighters in front of him. Next, you have to go to the underground world. Advertisement. You go this time and aim at a devil fruit. Once you're there, ask Kizaru about his attitude. If he agrees to cooperate with us, then you should give this devil fruit to Kizaru immediately. And promise to the other party, if he is willing to cooperate with us. Then Aokiji and Akainu can also get devil fruit. And we can also promise that after that, we can provide all their training materials. After saying this, he also urged the combatant to go and do it quickly. After hearing the words of the world government leader, the fighters also rushed into action. Then he turned and left the world government, headed towards the underground world, and returned again. In the past few days, Monk also felt that something was wrong with Marine 3 Admiral. But he didn't take this matter to heart. Because in Monk's view, since Naval Headquarters has completely surrendered to himself, then these 3 Marine Admirals, even if they are another moth, they won't be bad for Naval Headquarters either. And Kizaru also felt it suddenly. A piece of iron in his pocket began to heat up. After Kizaru picked it up, he couldn't help frowning. Advertisement. This piece of iron was given to him by the world government combatant last time. And it also shows that if this piece of iron heats up, it means that he has come again. At this time, Kizaru also stood up and walked slowly towards the outside of the underground world. Soon, he also saw the fighters of that world government again. World government fighters at this time after seeing Kizaru. It was also immediately decisive, and took out the devil fruit that the leader of the world government handed over to him. Then he waved the devil fruit in front of Kizaru's eyes. After seeing the other party's action, Kizaru was also very surprised. Didn't amazingly understand what the other person was thinking. Then he also asked suspiciously. Quote. Backquote. Didn't I tell you last time? You don't have to look for me. I will take the initiative to contact you here. But why don't you understand the rules and continue to bother me? After saying this sentence, Huang Yuan's gaze also slowly turned cold. After hearing Kizaru's words, the combatants of the world government also hurriedly explained that it was Zan. Advertisement. Chapter 305. The last time was not sincere enough. Advertisement. You misunderstand, it's not that I want to break the rules. But our leader suddenly thought that the sincerity was not enough last time. So, this time I come here, I also want to talk to you about this cooperation. Quote. Kizaru also waved his hand at this time, saying that there is no need to talk this time. We've already talked about it before, so there's no need to waste any more time at this time. But world government fighters are hastening to say that this time around they won't be unpaid like last time. This time they are going to give Kizaru, Xingzi and others a devil fruit each. Then he also pointed to the devil fruit in his hand, and said to Kizaru. This is what our leader asked me to bring, and it also shows that as long as you cooperate with us, then this devil fruit is yours. 910 and afterward, Akainu and Aokiji can also get devil fruit. And after that, our world government can manage the training supplies of the 3 of you. But the premise is that you will cooperate with us to fight Monk. Quote. After saying this, he also fell silent, waiting for Kizaru's answer. Kizaru also smiled slightly at this time. Advertisement. Then he stretched out his hand, signaling the other party to hand over the devil fruit. The fighters didn't ask much at this moment, so they handed over the fruit. Then Kizaru also spoke to the combatant. Okay, you go back first, I'll talk to Kizaru and Aokiji next. After finishing these words, he also ran away without a trace. And after the combatant watched Kizaru leave, he also felt that something was wrong. But this is the end of the matter, he has handed over the devil fruit. Even if I regret it, I didn't move. Then he left here in a daze. Started to expect that Kizaru would work with the world government chief. After Kizaru got the devil fruit, he also quickly came to Monk. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows after seeing Kizaru arrive here. Afterwards, he also waited for Kizaru to explain his reason for coming. At this time, Kizaru balked also silently placed the devil fruit in front of Monk. Monk was even more confused at this moment. Advertisement. I don't know what kind of medicine Kizaru is selling in the gourd at this time. Then he asked Kizaru suspiciously. Kizaru, what the hell do you mean by that? Why put a devil fruit here? Quote. At this time, Kizaru also spoke forcefully to Monk. This devil fruit was brought to me by the leader of the world government. Monk's eyes widened when he heard this, and then he also looked at Kizaru. Kizaru also spoke to Monk again at this moment. Don't get me wrong, I didn't betray you. This is the leader of the world government, who wants to recruit our Marine 3 Admirals reward. And the other party also promised, as long as we have joined forces to attack you. and destroy the underground world, then he can give each of us a devil fruit. And also promise that in the future, any training materials, world government can provide. After hearing what Kizaru said, Monk also nodded. Then he asked Kizaru suspiciously. Advertisement. Chapter 306 Monk knows the situation. Advertisement. Since the other party is so sincere, why did you tell me about it instead of agreeing? After saying this, Monk also waited for Kizaru's explanation. Kizaru also smiled wryly at this time. Then he explained to Monk. Since our naval headquarters have been merged into the underground world. Then after that, the underground world is related to our naval headquarters. It is our Marine 3 Admiral made by naval headquarters. The three of us should play for naval headquarters anyway. The current underground world and naval headquarters are both prosperous, and both are damaged. Quote. So, it is impossible for me to betray. And the treasures you gave are much more valuable than the devil fruit they gave. After that, you will not be stingy, and you will still give us treasures. So, why should we look far away and cooperate with the leaders of the world government foolishly? Monk also nodded after hearing Kizaru's words. Then he also asked Kizaru what the other two Marine admirals meant. Advertisement. And also said that their meaning and their own ideas are exactly the same, and there is no difference. After hearing what Kizaru said, Monk nodded in satisfaction. Afterwards, he also promised Kizaru that he would definitely be rewarded accordingly. Kizaru just left happily. After Kizaru left, Monk's smile also subsided. At this time Monk was also on the verge of rage. This world government is really confused about the situation. They dare to provoke themselves at this moment. I haven't taken the initiative to find trouble with them yet, and they dare to take the initiative to come forward, which is really a bit embarrassing. Monk has also made up his mind at this moment, planning to go to the world government and talk to the leader of the world government. When Monk made up his mind and was about to stand up and leave, the warden also appeared in front of Monk with Luffy. Monk also smiled slightly after seeing the two of them. He also had a sudden idea, and planned to take the two of them to follow him to the world government to have a look. As the saying goes, there is strength in numbers, and with the help of the two of them, Monk will definitely be able to complete the plan in his heart faster. Advertisement. 0. In fact, if they are ranked according to strength, Garp and others must be in the front row. But Monk considers that they played for the world government before. Bringing them there will definitely embarrass these people. So, Monk also changed his mind, and prepared to take the warden and Luffy there. 0. At this time, Luffy and the warden saw Monk's half smile as soon as they entered the door. I can't help but feel very cold. Then the two of them also looked at Monk suspiciously. But Monk has nothing to say to them. The warden couldn't take it anymore. Then he spoke forcefully to Monk. Monk, just hurry up and tell me what you want to do. You must have mean things when you laugh like that. And you didn't tell us your real purpose, which made the two of us very scared. After this sentence was finished, the warden also looked at Monk expectantly, waiting for Monk to say something about Monk's own thoughts. Advertisement. Chapter 307 Ready to find the leader of the world government. Advertisement. After hearing the warden's question, Monk also thought about his words. Then he spoke to the warden in a sonorous and forceful voice. Prisoner, this time I also have an incident here. This matter requires the help of you and Luffy. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the warden and Luffy made a decisive decision and patted their chests. Said that he and others will definitely help Monks, 8-7. But they want to know what happened. At this moment, Monk also spoke forcefully to Luffy and the warden. Not long ago, the leader of the world government also sent someone to communicate with Marine and Admiral. Advise them to cooperate with the leaders of the world government to deal with me. And the world government has paid a lot of money. He even planned to use devil fruit and the training materials of Marine and Admiral in exchange for cooperation. But Marine 3 Admiral unequivocally refused. And also told me about it. So I prepared to fight back and let the world government leader know that my Monk is amazing. Advertisement. Prevent him from continuing to play tricks in the dark. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at Luffy and the warden. At this time, Luffy and the warden are both thinking. Then the two raised their heads in unison, looking at Monk with burning eyes. And the two also expressed that they are willing to participate in this matter and are willing to help Monk. After hearing what the two said, Monk also nodded happily. Then he spoke to the two of them. Since you two agree to help, let's go now. As the saying goes, it is better to hit the sun than to choose the day. The longer the time is delayed, the situation will change. We should take advantage of this time to deal with this matter properly. Quote. The warden and Luffy nodded again and again after hearing Monk's words. Then, under the leadership of Monk, they embarked on the road to the world government. The head of the world government also waited for several days, and did not hear any news about Marine 3 Admiral for several days in a row. This made him feel very angry. Listen to the previous combatant's reply. Advertisement. He can also infer that Marine 3 Admiral must have refused to cooperate with him. 0. This made the leader of the world government feel helpless for a while. At this moment, he is also preparing to pass this matter over. Then wait for the next opportunity to plan for Monk. It's a pity that the dream is very full, but the reality is very skinny. When he had just thought about this matter, Monk, the warden and others also came to the world government. At this time, the leader of the world government also received a report from the fighters. The other party also informed the leader of the world government, saying that Monk brought people outside the world government. Monk made it clear that he wanted to see the head of the world government. If the world government leaders don't go to meet each other, they will attack in 4.0. The leader of the world government couldn't help but frown after hearing the report from the fighters. Then he smiled coldly. In the eyes of the world government leader, Monk is asking for his own death. I haven't looked for Monk yet, and Monk came to me so carelessly, I really don't know what to do. Then he also signaled to the combatants in front, asking them to take him to meet Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 308 Don't be shy. Advertisement. After hearing the order from the leader of the world government, the fighters also hurriedly led the way ahead. Then he took the leader of the world government and came to the place where Monk was. At this time, Monk was also crossing his arms, looking at the leader of the world government who was getting closer and closer in front of him with a playful face. The leader of the world government also had a gloomy face at this moment, and said to Monk coldly. I don't know why you came to me. Monk couldn't help but sneered when he heard the leader of the world government knowingly asked. Then he spoke viciously to the leader of the world government. You guys can put on a show. I already know all the things you did. You guys are really shameless. You dare to go to Marine 3 Admiral 10 and want them to cooperate with you to betray me. I came this time just to ask you for an explanation. If you don't give an explanation, don't blame me for being rude to you. Quote. After saying this, Monk snorted coldly. After hearing what Monk said, the leader of the world government also laughed for a while. Then he answered to Monk. Advertisement. What shamelessness is this? I use benefits to collect their sincerity. Isn't this a transaction? Since it is a transaction, there is nothing shameless or shameless about it. And you, in my opinion, are even more shameless. For no reason, I went to find those people in naval headquarters, and gathered them all together. This also made me extremely angry. Quote. Naval headquarters was originally managed by my world government. But you D stole it. Quote. Monk also looked at the head of the world government jokingly at this moment. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. If I'm not mistaken, naval headquarters is a cooperative relationship with your world government, right? They have worked for the world government for so many years, but they still haven't achieved much. Because they didn't give them much authority here, and they have been suppressing them. So, it's time for them to change their partners. Quote. You guys don't want to be so high-sounding. Then you give me an explanation, and then I can leave with peace of mind. Advertisement. And you have to make sure that you don't make some small tricks afterwards. Otherwise, I would definitely make a fuss here. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the leader of the world government also crossed his arms. Then he said to Monk in a cold voice. You guys are really crazy. This world government is my territory, and in my territory, you dare to say such a thing, it is really a little incomprehensible. Today I give you a chance, you can turn around and leave, I absolutely don't care about you. But 930 is if you are still here and don't give up, don't blame me for sending people to surround you. Then kill you here. Quote. Monk heard that the leader of the world government was still fighting against him there. He is also not going to say anything more to the leader of the world government. Monk is ready to act decisively at this moment and defeat the leader of the world government. Let the other person know how great you are. In that case, the leader of the world government will not dare to say those rampant words anymore. Monk also shot quickly at this moment, and rushed forward. The leader of the world government was also slightly surprised. Advertisement. Chapter 309 Two people fighting. Advertisement. He didn't expect that Monk would attack him at this moment. Then he reacted quickly, and armament Haki was attached to his arm instantly. And Monk is also a hard round of fists. The arm is also straightened and stretched, attacking the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government also crossed his arms at this moment, blocking Monk's fist. And Monk took this opportunity to quickly approach the leader of the world government. Then used the rubber machine gun to attack the opponent. The leader of the world government is also using iron body and armament Haki for defense at this moment. This guy is worthy of being the leader of the world government, and his fighting skills are really ridiculously high. Under Monk's constant attack, the leader of the world government did not lose the slightest bit of wind. Even a little out of Monk's grasp. Monk was also alert for a moment, and then quickly took a step back. The power of the green dragon fruit is also used. Then it also entered the state of Qinglong, and began to attack the leader of the world government. At this time, the leader of the world government also slowly fell into a disadvantage. Advertisement. But he wasn't nervous at all. After fighting Monk for a few moves, he quickly took a few steps back. After he took a breath, he said to Monk coldly, Monk, if I were you, I should get out of here quickly. Because after that, you will face an extremely powerful enemy. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows after hearing the words of the world government leader. He wasn't ready to believe the other person's words. In Monk's view, this guy was just using words to fool himself. He has never heard of anyone who has cooperated with the leader of the world government. The head of the world government is aware that Monk doesn't believe it. Then he said coldly to Monk, Whitebeard, I'm sure you've heard of him. He is one of the 4 emperors, an extremely powerful expert. When I was fighting with you before, I already sent him the news. He also promised that he will arrive here quickly in the near future and launch an attack on you. I can't beat you by myself, but with Whitebeard, I can beat you easily. Advertisement. Then the underground world can be destroyed. Quote. As for those people in the underground world, I will also wipe them out. So, I advise you to be a hero who knows current affairs, and get out of here. Quote. Monk also smiled coldly at this moment, and then sneered at the leader of the world government. Quote. You guys are really stupid. Do you think that with just a few words of yours, you can make me turn around and leave here? Let me tell you, you are daydreaming. Quote. If you're sure you'll beat me when Whitebeard comes, then you won't say these useless words. Hello Wang Nuo, you will definitely hide this news to delay me and make me stay here. Then you can join forces with Whitebeard to attack me. So I'm sure, you guys are definitely not sure. Quote. After Monk said this, he also laughed wildly. At this time, the leader of the world government also had a very ugly face. He didn't expect that Monk would guess Kai. He is also a little helpless at the moment. Advertisement. Chapter 310 Contact Whitebeard. Advertisement. Next, I want to prepare for the decisive battle. Even with Monk alone, he was a little unsure of defeating Monk. What's more, behind Monk, there is also a warden and Luffy who is in the limelight. If he didn't send out an army, there would be no way to defeat these three people. But unexpectedly, Monk showed a mocking smile at the head of the world government at this moment. Then he turned around and left. Seeing this scene, the leader of the world government couldn't help but widen his eyes. Monk also said those words of analysis just now. But why did he turn around and leave at this moment? This made him also scratch his head. But this confusion only paused for a moment, replaced by a happy mood. Because since Monk has already left, 120 then he doesn't have to work hard to fight Monk. He only needs to wait for Whitebeard to arrive, and then join hands with Whitebeard to go to the underground world. We'll be able to make the Monk fail. The reason why he said those words that fooled Monk just now was because Whitebeard arrived too late. By the time Whitebeard arrives, it's too late. Advertisement. So, he was going to fool Monk and let Monk leave. And he can wait for Whitebeard to arrive. The warden and Luffy left after seeing Monk bog. The two of them also looked at each other. Then he followed closely behind Monk and rushed towards the distance. They are also very puzzled at this moment, and they don't understand why Monk left suddenly at this moment. It was obvious that his side had the upper hand, but why did Monk retreat bravely and leave? They also wanted to make a decision immediately and ask out their doubts. But at this time, the Monk also left towards the distance. There is no time for myself and others to ask. So the two of them also buried this question in their hearts. I want to ask Monk again when I have time. After returning to the boat, Monk also took Luffy and the warden to the distant island. At this time, the two also had a chance. At this moment, Luffy also asked Monk suspiciously. Monk, why did you leave all of a sudden just now? Advertisement. If we take advantage of the victory and pursue it, we will definitely be able to defeat the leader of the world government. But why are you running away so quickly at this moment? Don't you have the confidence to defeat the leader of the world government? After saying this, he also looked at Monk suspiciously. And the warden on the side also had the same expression. The two of them also wanted Monk to explain the reason very much at this time. Monk also smiled slightly at this time. Then he spoke forcefully to Luffy and the warden. This matter is not as simple as you think. If I continue to fight the world government leader, it will take a long time. If my guess is correct, the reason why the warden wanted to fool me into letting me go. It's because Whitebeard arrived too slowly. So much so that he wasn't sure of holding me back before Whitebeard came. BWGB. B. But why not on my side? The world government also has a lot of talents, if the leader of the world government is willing to lose the fight. Advertisement. Chapter 311 Praise Monk for his wit. Advertisement. It will be difficult for the three of us. At that time, it will definitely fall into an extremely difficult battle. Once the time drags on for a long time and Whitebeard arrives, it will be a little difficult for us. So now I have to solve the Whitebeard matter, so that Whitebeard will not cooperate with the world government leader. At that time, the only enemy we will face is the leader of the world government. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, Luffy and the warden thought carefully for a while. Then he nodded heavily. At this time, the two of them had a general understanding of Monk's thoughts. But at this time, the warden also wants to ask Monk again. At this moment, he also asked Monk suspiciously. Monk, do you mean that you are going to take the two of us to find Whitebeard at this moment, Whitebeard fight? Monk also smiled mysteriously at this moment. Then he spoke to the two of them. Why bother? Since Whitebeard has already received the invitation from the head of the world government, he rushed to the world government. Then we can take this opportunity to go to the Whitebeard base camp and destroy it there. Advertisement. By that time, Whitebeard will surely return quickly after receiving the news that his base camp has been destroyed. In that case, we will solve this matter without any effort at all. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Luffy and the warden couldn't help but widen their eyes. Afterwards, the two of them gave Monk a thumbs up and praised Monk for his wit. Monk also smiled slightly at this moment. Then he was ready to move on with the two of them. As the ship sailed forward slowly, they finally stopped at a huge island. Monk also understood when he saw the tall buildings on the island ahead. I and others have arrived at Whitebeard's base camp. Then he also greeted the warden and Luffy to get them ready. Next, go to the Whitebeard base camp to destroy it. At this time, the warden and Luffy were also extremely excited. Then he quickly packed his luggage. 0 for flowers. Then they also followed behind Monk and rushed towards the shore together. Advertisement. At this time, Whitebeard was also sitting on the deck of the ship, looking at the magnificent sea ahead. Marco next to him also came to Whitebeard's side. Then he asked Whitebeard, "Father, can we send just a few people to the base camp to prevent other people from invading?" Asterisk 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 asterisk. After hearing what Marco said, Whitebeard also laughed twice. Then he patted Marco on the shoulder and replied to Marco. "Don't worry. Don't you trust your brothers? Their strength is not weak either. Our side just needs to fix the monk problem, and then we'll be back at base camp. This time I will promise to speed up and come back quickly. In that case, a series of troubles can be prevented." Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Marco also nodded. Then there was no doubt. Stand beside Whitebeard and stare ahead, waiting to meet the world government leader. Advertisement. Chapter 312 The Whitebeard Base Camp. Advertisement. As the ship continued to sail, Whitebeard also met the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government is also very polite at this moment. He also introduced Whitebeard to the world government at this time. Then the preparations for Whitebeard's banquet began. But Whitebeard waved his hand and rejected the invitation of the head of the world government. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. "I'm here this time, 303, is to help you solve Monk's problem. Not here to eat and drink. There are still a series of things that have not been dealt with in my base camp. So, you still hurry up and take me to find Monk. Then after we get rid of the monk, I can go back. And you have to keep your promise to pay me." Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, the leader of the world government also nodded quickly. And he said that he will definitely keep his promise, and the reward that should be given will definitely not be less. But now there is a problem. Advertisement. That is, they did not find out what Monk was doing at this time. After hearing the words of the leader of the world government, Whitebeard couldn't help frowning, looking at the leader of the world government. Then he also despised the leader of the world government very much. Since the other party wants to plan and design Monk, everything should be prepared beforehand. Whether it is Monk's movements or Monk's strength, it should be investigated clearly. Then arrange it. In the past, Whitebeard thought that the leader of the world government had almost planned everything. Then you just need to come and be a thug yourself. But unexpectedly, this guy didn't even know Monk's movements. Then tell yourself here, what is the use of so many? At this time, the leader of the world government also noticed Rybert's contempt. Then he was also a little embarrassed. I only heard him explaining to Whitebeard at this time. "Whitebeard, I don't want to just lose track of Monk. This is also because the guy Monk is too cunning. Advertisement. He did come here before, and threatened to confront me. But unexpectedly, this guy turned around and left like a chicken thief. When I went to look for him, I also found it and lost his trace. 0 degrees. After saying this sentence, the leader of the world government also sighed helplessly at this moment. After Whitebeard heard the words of the head of the world government, he also restrained his contempt a little. Because Monk is also rampaging in Whitebeard's stronghold. The guards that Whitebeard left behind were also useless. Under the threat of Monk's powerful strength, everyone was discouraged, and no one could compete with Monk. At this time, Monk also kept looking at these people around him. Afterwards, he also spoke forcefully to several people. "Guys, it's not me against you guys. 2.4 is just because Whitebeard is going against me. So, I also counterattacked in a timely manner. Otherwise, I'm not in conflict with you guys. If you blame it, blame your daddy Whitebeard." Quote. After saying this, Monk also gestured to the warden and Luffy, wanting them to start taking action. After Luffy and the warden got this hint from Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 313 Leaving in Style. Advertisement. Then he laughed loudly and scattered around. Then the two of them kept searching for the treasure house in the Whitebeard base camp. So take these things away. After that, many members of the Whitebeard pirates dared not speak out. They also want to step forward and work hard. But this was also stopped by reason. Because they know how impulsive they are waiting for others. In the end, it still doesn't matter. Because Monk's strength lies there, it is not something they can fight against. So, they can only pin their hopes on Whitebeard. All the pirates took advantage of the chaos to take out the phone bugs. Then he also sent a message to Whitebeard. 10 Whitebeard was also very angry after this afternoon's news. The leader of the world government standing in front of him also raised his eyebrows suspiciously. He didn't expect that Monk's speed was so fast. Advertisement. Heading to Whitebeard's base camp in such a short time. Then he also spoke to Whitebeard. "Whitebeard, since there is a problem with your base camp. Then I won't keep you, you should hurry back and deal with the affairs of the base camp." Quote. After hearing the words of the world government leader, Whitebeard also nodded, turned and left with a gloomy face. At this time, he also didn't give the leader of the world government a good face. Because before this incident, it was because of being the leader of the government. If it weren't for the leader of the world government, he wouldn't be fighting Monk. It would not appear here in such a short period of time, so that Monk seized the opportunity to attack his base camp. After watching Whitebeard leave, the leader of the world government gloated a little. On Monk's side, after looting the Whitebeard base camp. Then he hurriedly took the warden and Luffy and left the Whitebeard base camp. Then he rushed towards the position of the world government leader again. At this time, the warden and Luffy also instantly understood what Monk meant. Monk just wanted to play a time lag so he could take advantage of Whitebeard's return. He can go to the world government in a hurry. Advertisement. At that time, the world government will not have the help of Whitebeard. You can easily defeat the leader of the world government by yourself and others. The two of them didn't ask stupidly, also quietly waiting for Monk's action. And Whitebeard and Monk are also very close. The two actually met on the way. But it's a pity that Monk is so well hidden that Whitebeard didn't find Monk. But Monk also found signs of Whitebeard directly. 360. He also suppressed his smile and continued to drive the boat forward. After Whitebeard returned to the base camp, he also asked the pirates in the base camp. But these people also said that Monk had left in a hurry and brought a large part of the treasure with him. Whitebeard also breathed a sigh of relief after hearing what these people told him. As long as the monk doesn't hurt his own sons, then you don't need to worry too much. Because money can be found anywhere. And by virtue of his title of 4 emperors, he can easily get a lot of money, and he doesn't need to bother too much at all. Advertisement. Chapter 314 Whitebeard returns. Advertisement. But the safety of his children's lives is not so easy to get. After he comforted these children, he stationed himself in his base camp. Prepare to meddle in the affairs of the leader of the world government. And Monk is also driving the boat, sailing forward. Soon, Monk brought Luffy and the warden to the shore. At this time, Luffy and the warden were also extremely excited. Because in the future, they will be able to make a big fuss in the world government. At this time, Monk also spoke forcefully to Luffy and the warden. You two, then you don't need to get too excited. Because in the next battle, it may be very urgent. It's not that easy. If the two of you relax too much, accidents may happen. I may also fight with the other party in the future, so that I can't separate myself to help you. So, you two must take care of yourselves, don't let yourselves get hurt. After saying this, Monk looked at the warden and Luffy seriously. Advertisement. Luffy and the warden nodded again and again after hearing Monk's words. Said that he and others would never worry Monk. And they also take care of themselves. They are not stupid enough to make jokes about their own safety. After hearing what the two said, Monk was relieved. Then they took Luffy and the warden and continued to walk forward. At this moment, the leader of the world government just breathed a sigh of relief when he also heard the report from the intelligence personnel ahead. Boss, Monk is back again with Luffy and the warden. In the future, shall we respond? After hearing what the intelligence personnel said, the leader of the world government also sighed helplessly. Now that Monk is here again, if I don't respond, will I just watch the other party destroy my world government? Isn't that utterly stupid? Then he also spoke to the intelligence personnel in front of him. Advertisement. Next, go and gather all the fighters. Then let them follow me and go outside to meet Monk's attack. After finishing these words, he also stood up, striding meteors walking out. After hearing the words of the leader of the world government, the intelligence officer also hurriedly acted. He also found the combat department in the world government in a hurry. Then the words of the leader of the world government were conveyed. Then many world government fighters are eagerly starting to act at this moment. When the leader of the world government arrives in front of Monk, Luffy and others. Those fighters were also mobilized extremely quickly, Li Chinhao, and appeared behind the leader of the world. Start to stare at Monk and others in front of you. At this time, Monk also looked at the leader of the world in front of him jokingly. Then he said mockingly to the leader of the world government. Backquote unexpectedly, I came back again, right? The leader of the world government also nodded after hearing what Monk said. Then he said to Monk with a serious face. Advertisement. Chapter 315 easily solved Whitebeard's problem. Advertisement. I have to say, you guys are indeed extremely smart. To be able to use such a move to easily solve Whitebeard's problem. I have to say, you are a very good opponent I have seen. Tell me, what do you want to do this time? Do you still want to attack me like before? After saying this, he also stared at Monk without blinking, waiting for Monk's answer. Monk couldn't help but sneered after hearing the world government leader's question. Then he said coldly to the leader of the world government. Aren't you asking the question knowingly? You are already planning to find Whitebeard to cooperate with me to launch an attack on me. How could I not respond? This time I came to you because I was going to make you pay the price. 757. And I have already said before, give you a chance. Quote. Now I will tell you clearly, if you are willing to surrender to me and incorporate the world government into my underground world, then your life can be preserved. And I can also guarantee that after this, I will never shoot you. Do you want to think about it now? Advertisement. After saying this, Monk also looked at the leader of the world government with burning eyes. Wait for the answer from the head of the world government. After hearing Monk's words, the leader of the world government couldn't help frowning. In the end, he was also helpless, and said to Monk. Monk, you don't think you're sure of winning, do you? In my opinion, you don't have much advantage at this time. Even if my strength is a little bit different from yours at the moment. But I still have soldiers on my side. Quote. With their help, the gap between us will soon be filled. So, don't be too aggressive. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the monk in front of him coldly. At this time, the leader of the world government is ready to fight Monk to the death. After hearing what the world government said, Monk couldn't help laughing mockingly. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. Okay, Since you are so confident, then, Baffa, let's fight. Advertisement. I want to see if your subordinates can help you as you said. After saying this, Monk rushed forward and started fighting with the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government also hurriedly used Haki to deal with Monk's attack. And Luffy and the warden also looked at each other, and then quickly started to move. They also want to join in the fun. And their target is the fighters behind the world government leader. The two people at this time were also malicious, looking at the combatants behind the world government leader. Then, under the panicked eyes of the opponent, he rushed forward and began to continuously attack. At this moment, the two are like wolves entering the flock. Just one easy shot can cause many combatants to fall to the ground with serious injuries. The two of them have also started to go crazy at this moment. And Monk is also fighting with the leader of the world government one by one. At this time, the two were also very nervous. Although Monk is 1 point better than the leader of the world government. But the difference is not big, the two must ensure that they are not hurt. Advertisement. Chapter 316 Changes in the battle situation. Advertisement. And it can't be too careless, as long as one move fails, someone on both sides can be seriously injured and die tragically. At this time, Monk has applied the power of various devil fruits to ultimate. And the leader of the world government also played armament Haki and observation Haki to ultimate. Constantly predicting the direction of Meng Kei's attack. And is also using armament Haki for defense and offense. After the two punched each other at this moment, they retreated one after another. At this time, Monk couldn't help but take a look at the warden and Luffy at the side. Then he said coldly to the leader of the world government. Head of the world government, if I were you, you should surrender to me now. All of your subordinates are like trash. Under the cooperation of the warden and Luffy, he was beaten like that. So, you don't have to struggle anymore. Quote. After finishing these words, he also waited for the surrender of the leader of the world government. At this moment, the leader of the world government also turned his head to look at those fighters. Then he couldn't help frowning, and he couldn't help thinking secretly in his heart, should he use that trick? Advertisement. Monk saw that the leader of the world government fell into deep thought, and folded his arms, jokingly waiting for the leader of the world government to finish thinking. At this time, Monk decided that the leader of the world government would definitely surrender to him. So, Monk is not in a hurry. And even if the leader of the world government does not surrender, there is no possibility of victory. After thinking for a while, the leader of the world government immediately decided to fight Monk to the death. Monk is too rampant here, he can't let Monk continue to be rampant. He must extinguish Monk's prestige. At this time, the head of the world government also spoke viciously to Monk. Monk, do you think you can win with confidence? I still have one trick I haven't used here, if I use it, I can guarantee that you will be seriously injured without dying. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows at this moment. He didn't believe what the other party said. In Monk's view, this is nothing more than a lie by the head of the world government. Zero looking for flowers. The leader of the world government must want to use this to fool himself and let him leave. Advertisement. At this moment, the leader of the world government also felt a puzzled gaze. Then he said to Monk in a cold voice, "Since you don't believe it, I'll let you see it." After saying this, the leader of the world government also tilted his neck. Zero. Then he patted his head with his hands. At this moment, the temperament of the leader of the world government also changed. Monk couldn't help becoming serious at this time. He felt a change in the strength of the leader of the world government. The other party may really have the kind of method he said to improve his strength. Then Monk also concentrated all his strength, looking vigilantly at the leader of the world government whose aura had changed significantly in front of him. The leader of the world government is also feeling the power that suddenly appeared in his body at this moment. He felt stronger than ever. When he raised his head and saw Monk's nervous expression, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Then he opened his mouth to mock the corpse. Advertisement. Chapter 317 Take a few steps back. Advertisement. Monk, I didn't expect my strength to grow so quickly. I gave you a reminder before, let you leave quickly. But you didn't open your eyes, you still stayed here, ready to confront me. So sorry, I won't hold back in the future. Quote. At this time, Monk also frowned and looked at the leader of the world government. Then he loudly said, 787, to Luffy and the warden. Luffy, warden, stop fighting, back off now. After hearing Monk's words, Luffy and the warden stepped back a few steps in a hurry. Then he came behind Monk and looked at Monk suspiciously. Monk also didn't answer at this time. Instead, he stretched out his hand and pointed to the leader of the world government. The gazes of Luffy and the warden also followed Monk's fingers. Then I saw the leader of the world government whose momentum had changed drastically at this time. At this time, the expressions of the two of them changed instantly. Advertisement. Then Luffy also quickly came to Monk's side, lowered his voice and said to Monk. Monk, shall we leave? Something is obviously wrong with this guy. And we can't see through his current strength. If this guy is too powerful to launch a powerful attack on us, we can't resist it at all. Quote. The warden also nodded at this moment, saying that he and Luffy had exactly the same thoughts. After hearing what the two said, Monk shook his head. Then he spoke forcefully to Luffy and the warden. The two of you stepped back one after another, and then looked for opportunities to help. I will compete with the leader of the world government at this time. If I win, you can continue to attack those combatants. If I fail, you will rescue me quickly. Quote. Luffy and the warden nodded again and again after hearing Monk's words. Afterwards, the two also retreated quickly, found a place and stayed there. Advertisement. At this time, the location where the two of them stayed was also chosen very well. If you stay here, you will not only be able to be vigilant against those world government fighters, but also be able to quickly support Meng Shu. 0. At this moment, Monk was relieved to see that both Luffy and the warden retreated, and then he also spoke to the leader of the world government in front of him. My arrangement has also ended, and then we two will compete. I have to look at your tone, is it as powerful as you are at this time? After hearing Monk's words, the leader of the world government laughed arrogantly. Then he rushed towards Monk suddenly, with a bad wind. Monk is also using the power of armament Haki and rubber fruit at this moment. A rubber bazooka slammed hard, and it attacked. But the leader of the world government seems to have not seen Monk's 0.8 attack. Bearing Monk's attack hard, he approached Monk. Monk saw his attack and did no damage to the world government chief. It is also using Bingbing Devil Fruit's ability to freeze the world government leader into ice. And he also used the power of the green dragon fruit at this moment, turning it into a green dragon state. Then began to attack the opponent. Advertisement. Chapter 318 Monk injured. Advertisement. Monk has already used his strength to ultimate. But it can only leave a few deep scars on the leader of the world government. But the leader of the world government seemed to feel no pain at this time, and rushed towards Monk frantically. Monk also hastily dismissed Fengqiang at this moment. But it is not as fast as the world mission leader at this time. In this way, Monk was hit in the chest by the head of the world government. Monk also immediately vomited blood at this moment, and then walked backwards. Seeing that his attack had paid off, the leader of the world government laughed wildly twice. Then he crossed his arms and looked at the monk in front of him. Then Ten said to Monk coldly, "Monk, do you want to fight me to the death now? If you want me to say, you should surrender quickly. In that case, I can still spare your life and not want your life." Quote. Monk also frowned after hearing what the world government leader said. Advertisement. Then he also straightened his back, wiped the bloodline from the corner of his mouth, and said to the leader on his body. "This time I admit defeat, I lost, but next time you won't have such a good advantage." Just like that, Monk also turned around and left. And after the leader of the world government put on a show there for a while, he also suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. With the spit out of this mouthful of blood, the leader of the world government seemed to be more than 10 years old. Hair is also graying at a speed visible to the naked eye. And his skin began to wrinkle. The method he used to forcibly increase his strength was not without side effects. This method has extremely bad side effects. At this time, the leader of the world government was also weak to the point of ultimate, he could hardly stand up. And the world government fighters next to them saw this scene. With quick hands and quick eyes, he came to the side of the leader of the world government and supported the leader of the world government. Then the leader of the world government also ordered the other party to bring him back to the world government. And Monk, clutching his chest, returned to the front of Luffy and the warden. At this time, the two of them also stared wide-eyed, looking forward in disbelief. Advertisement. Then Monk waved his hands helplessly towards the two of them, and then spoke to them. "Okay, since we've already lost the battle, there's no need to stay here. Let's get out of here now." Quote. After saying this, Monk also quickly stepped onto the boat. After thinking for a while, the warden and Luffy followed Monk onto the boat. Then the three of them also drove towards the distance. Meng 343K also sat cross-legged on the boat, took out two treasures that could recover from injuries, and began to recover from injuries continuously. In just half a day, Monk's injury has fully recovered. The route at this time is also very familiar to Luffy and the warden. They feel like they've been here before. Then the warden also approached Monk, and asked Monk suspiciously. "Monk, have we traveled this route yet? Why do I feel so familiar? Can you tell us where we are going next?" After saying this, he also waited for Monk's answer. Advertisement. Chapter 319 Going to Whitebeard. Advertisement. After hearing the warden's question, Monk also answered. "Of course we are familiar with the route this time, because we have been there before. My idea now is to go to Whitebeard and work with Whitebeard. If possible, I can subdue him and let him be used by me." Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the warden couldn't help being shocked. Then he nodded happily. Whitebeard's strength is very strong. If Whitebeard can be subdued, then the underground world will definitely become very powerful. Even if you can't subdue him, even if you cooperate with him, you can make the underground world very powerful. Then he began to look forward to seeing Whitebeard soon. Then tell Whitebeard what Monk thinks. In this way, the three of them also came outside Whitebeard's base camp with excitement. After Monk and others disembarked, they were also surrounded by the Whitebeard pirates. At this time, Monk also looked at the vigilant people around him, and said, "Everyone, we didn't come here this time to destroy it. Advertisement. Instead, I am going to have a good communication with Whitebeard. Make no mistake." 17. After saying this, Monk also smiled slightly. The members of the Whitebeard pirates were very disbelieving at this moment. "I only heard a pirate talking to Monk at this moment. Don't lie anymore, what you said last time was also high-sounding. But in the end, didn't it also cause wanton damage to our side? They even robbed our treasure house here. You guys are also very shameless." Quote. After saying this sentence, the pirate snorted coldly. Following this pirate's statement, the other pirates also started to quarrel at this moment. They're all cursing Monk. Monk couldn't help frowning at this moment, thinking secretly in his heart. It seems that after this, I can only forcefully enter. And at this time, Marco also came out. Advertisement. He also felt a little puzzled after hearing the noisy voice. Then I was ready to see what happened here. After Marco arrived, all the pirates gave way to Marco. After Marco came here, he saw Monk without asking what happened to these people. Then he couldn't help frowning, and said to Monk coldly. Backquote, you guy, why are you here? Didn't you make enough trouble last time? After hearing what Marco said, Monk also answered to Marco. Last time, it was justifiable. Who told you to prepare to do something to me? If you are not prepared to do something to me, I understand that this will not conflict with you people. In the final analysis, you still want to attack me, so I will fight back. Marco was a little speechless after hearing Monk's words. But he wasn't going to let Monk stay here any longer. He only heard him speaking coldly to Monk at this time. I don't care whose problem it was last time, but since you've taken so much money from us. Advertisement. Chapter 320. You are not welcome here. Advertisement. Then the grievances between us should be completely settled. So, where do you come from? Go cool down somewhere, we don't welcome you here. Having said that, Marco also waved his hand, signaling Monk to get out of here. Don't stay here any longer. Monk was also impatient at the moment, and said to Marco. I didn't come here to see you, I came to see Whitebeard. I'm sure he'd be very happy to see me. If your side hastily kicked me out, how would you explain it when Whitebeard asks? After hearing what Monk said, Marco couldn't help thinking. Then he also frowned, and said to Monk. Okay, since that's the case, you just wait here, don't move 893, I'll go find Dad. Then ask his opinion. You can go in if Pop is ready to see you. But if Dad doesn't want to see you, then you'd better get out. Quote. Advertisement. After saying this, Marco turned around and left, walking towards the base camp. At this time, Whitebeard was also leaning on the giant seat, drinking wine and eating meat. After Marco arrived, Whitebeard also suddenly threw a wine bowl to Marco. Marco is also quick-sighted at this moment, and even caught the giant wine bowl that was as tall as his body paid. After seeing Marco deal with this move with ease, Whitebeard also laughed happily. Then he spoke to Marco. Yes, the strength has improved again. Tell me, what is the purpose of coming here to find me? At this time, Marco also slowly put the huge wine bowl on the ground. Then he spoke to Whitebeard in a sonorous and forceful voice. Dad, Monk is here at our base camp. And he threatened to meet you, do you want to meet him? If you want to meet him, I'll let him in. If you say no, then I'll drive him away. Quote. After this sentence, he also waited for Whitebeard's decision. Advertisement. After hearing what Marco said, Whitebeard couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Then he laughed and said to Marco. Since the monks are here, if we don't welcome them, it will appear that I'm a bit of a petite. Let him in, I want to see how brave this guy is, dare to come to me. After saying this, Whitebeard also waved to Marco, asking him to welcome Monk and others in. Marco also nodded, and then turned around and used the power of the Phoenix Devil Fruit to fly. In this way, he came to Monk faster. Monk saw Mark fall from the sky. Then he quietly waited for Marco's notification. Listen to what Marco got from Whitebeard. Marco was also very impatient at the moment, and said to Monk. Papa is ready to see you, hurry up and get ready, and follow me to see Papa. After hearing what Marco said, Monk raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Then he turned his head and spoke to the warden and Luffy. You two follow me, and then we enter Whitebeard base camp together, go find Whitebeard. Advertisement. Chapter 321. Nodding. Advertisement. The warden and Luffy also nodded immediately. Then they followed behind Monk and walked towards the Whitebeard base camp together. Soon, under the leadership of Marco, the three of them also came in front of Whitebeard. Whitebeard at this time is also meaningful, looking at Monk at this time. From Whitebeard's point of view, Monk is a guy who's a little too gutsy for ultimate. I came to my base camp before and made a mess of my base camp. And also took away so many gold and silver treasures from himself. Even dare to appear here at this time, aren't you afraid of launching an attack on it? Then he also asked about this idea. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk also laughed twice. Then he also spoke to Beard. If you are afraid of East and West, how can you make your way in this world? And if I were afraid of you, I would have been terrified before. Therefore, if you escape in a hurry, you will never come to your base camp and make trouble for you. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard nodded in agreement. I have to say that what Monk said is very reasonable. Advertisement. Then he also spoke to Monk. Okay, I won't tell you those useless things. Tell me now, why you came here. Now that you're all here, stop hiding from me. Quote. After this sentence was finished, Whitebeard also looked at Monk with burning eyes, waiting for Monk to explain his reason for coming. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk couldn't help laughing twice. Then he spoke to Whitebeard. I didn't expect you to speak so happily. In my opinion, you are quite suitable to be friends. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard laughed out loud. Then they continued to wait for Monk's answer. At this time, Monk also spoke to Whitebeard again. I am here this time to prepare to cooperate with you, and I want to cooperate with you to launch an attack on the leader of the world government. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Then he asked Meng. Zero looking for flowers. Advertisement. I can't believe you didn't have trouble with the head of the world government before. If you guessed right, after I come back, you must have trouble with the leader of the world government again. What? You never hit him? After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk also nodded. Whitebeard couldn't help but widen his eyes at this moment. He didn't expect that Monk didn't beat the leader of the world government. The strength of the leader of the world government is obvious to all, but it is not that strong. But Monk actually said that he never hit the other party. What is going on? Then Whitebeard also asked Monk suspiciously. Monk, your strength is extraordinary. I don't believe you can't beat him. And when the leader of the world government faced you before, he was very nervous. You even have to ask me for help before you dare to fight with you. But why do you say at this moment that you never beat him? Tell me the reason now. Let me satisfy my curiosity with this. Quote. After finishing these words, he also waited for Monk's answer. Advertisement. Chapter 322. Advertisement. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk sighed helplessly. Then he spoke forcefully to Whitebeard. In the past, I also thought the same as you. But in the process of fighting with him, this guy suddenly improved his strength. And looking at him, it seems that he doesn't know the pain, even if my attack hit him. He also didn't have any response to the 750. And this guy's strength has also improved a lot, and I can't get cheap from him at all. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard couldn't help but nodded. After pondering for a moment, he spoke to Monk. If this is the case, I should not cooperate with you. In the past, I also dealt with the leaders of the world government. The two of us also communicate very well, so there is no need to conflict with him in order to help you. You also said that your strength is not as strong as his. So if this is the case, why don't I cooperate with him but have to cooperate with you? After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk couldn't help shaking his head. He also didn't know how to refute Whitebeard at the moment. Advertisement. At this time, the warden suddenly took 2 steps forward and came to Monk's side. Then he spoke forcefully to Whitebeard. Whitebeard, there's nothing wrong with you working with Monk. In my opinion, it is also very appropriate to cooperate with Monk. You know, Monk has many treasures here. Even Naval Headquarters is willing to work with Monk for these treasures. Do you have the confidence on your side to match Naval Headquarters? After saying this, he also looked at Whitebeard. Whitebeard was also lost in thought at this time. He felt that what the other party said was indeed reasonable. But he didn't understand what kind of treasure Monk had that could interest everyone in Naval Headquarters. At this moment, Monk, seeing Whitebeard lost in thought, couldn't help giving the warden a thumbs up. After that, he was also ready to pursue the victory. Whitebeard, these treasures of mine can all enhance strength. And can improve strength without injury. If you have some specific treasures, you can also get extremely powerful Haki Point 0. Advertisement. It can even develop your devil fruit power even better. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard's eyes suddenly lit up. If there are other things, he doesn't care. Because his Conqueror's Haki has also been used in Ultimate. In this world, few people can match him. And when it comes to the level of devil fruit development, Whitebeard was having a hard time. It is true that he developed devil fruit better at this time, but that is also because he is older. It is through time that these forces are developed. But if he wants to develop the power of shaking devil fruit to ultimate 5.4, even if he dies, it will be difficult to develop it. So when he heard what Monk said today, he became interested instantly. Then he looked at Monk with burning eyes. Monk also smiled slightly at this time. Then he spoke again to Whitebeard. You should think about it now, the warden and I will leave first. Advertisement. Chapter 323. Stay for a few days. Advertisement. But don't worry, we won't be leaving so soon. We'll be here for a few days. There is no problem in replying to us after you have finished thinking. After saying this, Monk also bid farewell to Whitebeard. With the warden and Luffy, they left the Whitebeard base camp. Then the 3 of them also returned to the boat. After arriving on the ship, Monk gave the warden another thumbs up. Then he praised the 10 wardens. Warden, if it weren't for you, I would never have thought of tempting Whitebeard with treasure. After hearing Monk's praise, the warden also scratched his head, saying that it was just a trivial matter. No praise needed. At this time, the warden suddenly thought of something. Then he spoke to Monk. Monk, if this Whitebeard is not ready to cooperate with us, or even has ulterior motives, wants to beat us, thereby taking away the treasure in your hand, so what should we do? Advertisement. After hearing the warden's question, Monk smiled coldly. Then he spoke forcefully. If he dares to think so, then he must have sufficient strength to ensure the success of his plan. In my opinion, it is impossible for him to succeed happily. He is already very old, and if he fights an ordinary battle, he can still win easily. But if he fought such a high-intensity battle, he would probably die in the middle of the battle. Therefore, before he wants to attack us, he will definitely weigh his physical condition first. Even if he is given a chance, he may not be able to grasp it. Quote. After saying this, Monk was also extremely confident. After hearing what Monk said, the warden also breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Whitebeard would not talk about Wood and send people to besiege him and the others. In that case, the two sides will inevitably have a fierce battle. While Monk and the others were chatting, Whitebeard also frowned and leaned on the giant chair, meditating. At this time, Marco also came to Whitebeard. Then he spoke to Whitebeard. Father, what are you thinking? Advertisement. Do you want to cooperate with Monk? After hearing Marco's question, Whitebeard shook his head slowly. Then he spoke. I don't have any thoughts at the moment, let me give me some time to think. It is indeed possible to cooperate with Monk to get those treasures. But while gaining benefits, you must also consider the risks. You can't just make a hasty decision like that. Quote. After hearing Whitebeard's words 020, Marco nodded in agreement. He also made up his mind at this moment, not to speak anymore. Just like that, the scene quietened down instantly. At this time, Whitebeard also spoke to Marco after thinking for a while. As the so-called wealth come from risks, if you want to improve your strength, you must take risks. Now I have also decided to cooperate with Monk and get some treasures from his hands to improve my strength. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Marco nodded again and again. Then I prepared to connect Monk and others in again. But Whitebeard waved his hand, and then spoke to Mark. Advertisement. Chapter 324 Let Monk hang out for a day. Advertisement. Don't worry, let Monk dry for a day. Since it is cooperation, there is no need to be so polite. If we cooperate, he will definitely use me. And I also need the treasure in his hands, so the two sides exchange in equal amounts, so there is no need to be too polite. If you are too polite, Monk will think that we are inferior to him. Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Marco also felt very reasonable. Then he said goodbye to Whitebeard and left slowly. On the second day, Marco also came in front of Monk and the others. Then it also explained the purpose of coming. Shows that Whitebeard is ready to work with Monk. After hearing what Marco said, Monk nodded flatly. From Monk's point of view, this matter is beyond dispute. Both parties will cooperate sooner or later. In this way, Monk also followed Marco and rushed towards the Whitebeard base camp. Soon, the three of them came to Whitebeard again. At this moment, Whitebeard also threw the huge wine bowl fiercely. Monk also smiled slightly, raised his right hand, and took it behind him. Advertisement. The two also looked at each other and smiled at this moment, and put the wine bowl close to their mouths together. Drank the wine in the wine bowl in one gulp. After finishing the drink, Monk also spoke to Whitebeard. Whitebeard, since I'm here, don't hide it. Tell me, what is your decision now? After hearing Monk's question, Whitebeard also laughed twice. Then he spoke to Monk. You offer so many things here, if I still refuse, then I'm a fool. I am now ready to work with you. Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk smiled meaningfully. Then he spoke again to Whitebeard. Not enough cooperation. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and looked at Monk suspiciously. Want to hear Monk's explanation? Didn't Monk say that he wanted to cooperate with himself before? But at this time, why do you say that cooperation is not enough? Advertisement. Does Monk want something else? Whitebeard also asked out the doubts in his heart. At this time, Monk also spoke forcefully to Whitebeard. What I mean is that, cooperating with me to obtain many treasures is not enough. Only by surrendering to me can you obtain treasures. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard also became furious instantly. He wanted to stand up immediately and attack Monk. Monk also didn't make any movements at this moment, still looking at Whitebeard flatly. Monk also spoke to Whitebeard after seeing Whitebeard stand up. Quote. Backquote. If you want to fight, let's fight together. I also want to confront you, the four emperors, to see if you still have strong strength. In my opinion, you are already old, and your strength is definitely not that strong anymore. So, I am not afraid of you. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard frowned and looked at Monk. Then he sighed helplessly. He couldn't refute what Monk said. He is indeed too old, and his current body is also suffering from constant injuries. Advertisement. Chapter 325 Take refuge in Monk. Advertisement. And Monk is still young and energetic, and the opponent also has the strength of several devil fruits. It is really difficult for him to defeat the opponent. If you fight with the opponent, it is very likely that you will die. At that time, everyone in the pirate group will not have their own protection. They're going to be in big trouble. Thinking of this, Whitebeard also said helplessly to Monk. It's okay to surrender to you, but I want to hear your promise. If I surrender to you, your side suddenly persecutes us. Then if I surrender to you, the loss outweighs the gain. Quote. Monk laughed out loud after hearing what Whitebeard said. Then he assured Whitebeard. 453 inches Whitebeard, don't worry, my reputation as Monk is also very good. I will never do such a despicable thing. As long as you surrender to me, then you can stay in my underground world. And there are also a lot of strong players there, whether it is Garp or Marine and Admiral, they are all on my side. Advertisement. If you want to learn from them or get some combat experience from them, you can ask them. There is no need to take into account the identities of both parties as in the past. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, Whitebeard thought for a moment. Then he nodded heavily. Now that everyone around Monk has said this kind of commitment. Then if he hesitates again, it will appear that he is a little bit hesitant. He, Whitebeard, is one of the super powerful four emperors, this title does not allow him to hesitate there. Just like that, he nodded heavily. Then he picked up the huge wine bowl and toasted Monk. Then he spoke loudly to Monk. Well, since that's the case, I, Whitebeard, will bring my Whitebeard pirates to completely merge into your underground world. From now on, I, Whitebeard, will take refuge in you. Quote. After saying this, Whitebeard also drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. Monk also laughed happily at this time. BACB. Then they sent the wine down their throats together. Advertisement. The two were also extremely happy to drink. By the next day, Monk was also planning to take Whitebeard and others to the underground world. After Whitebeard thought about it for a while, he made a happy decision. Then Monk took the warden and Luffy to drive the boat ahead and lead the way. And Whitebeard took many members of the Whitebeard pirates, and followed closely behind on a big ship. After several days of sailing, they finally came to the underground world. As soon as the members of the Whitebeard pirates appeared, the people of naval headquarters immediately became vigilant. Garp and Zephyr also looked at Whitebeard with serious faces. As if an attack on Whitebeard is going to be launched in the next second. After seeing the serious looks of the two, Whitebeard also smiled meaningfully. He is not ready to explain at this moment. He also wanted to fight the two of them. Take a look at the strength of the two of them at this time. After Monk saw the tense atmosphere, he hurried forward. Then he spoke forcefully to Zephyr and Garp. Advertisement. Chapter 326 Almost a Conflict. Advertisement. You two, don't get me wrong, Whitebeard has already surrendered to me. And he is also preparing to bring the Whitebeard pirates into my underground world. The two of you will be colleagues in the future. So, don't have conflicts at this time. After Garp and Zephyr heard Monk's words, they couldn't help staring, their eyes widened. They also did not expect that Monk was able to bring back the white beard of one of the four emperors. And also subdued this arrogant guy, which also made the two of them unbelievable. But the two of them knew that Monk would not lie to them. And even if it is a lie, there is no need to lie about this kind of thing. In this way, Garp and Zephyr also looked at Monk with the eyes of a monster. At this time, Monk was also a little scared by these two people. Then he hurriedly urged Whitebeard. Let Whitebeard take everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates to choose a site. Then live there. Wait until Monk settles down with everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates. Advertisement. Zephyr also brought Crane Vice Admiral and others to the front of Monk. After Monk saw a few people coming, he was not shocked at all. Because he had expected it, and then he spoke to Zephyr and Crane Vice Admiral. Tell me about your intentions, and see if I can solve it for you. After this sentence was finished, Monk also quietly waited for everyone to be informed. Zephyr, Crane Vice Admiral and others also looked at each other. Afterwards, Crane Vice Admiral also spoke forcefully to Monk. We came to you this time because of the Whitebeard matter. The sudden addition of Whitebeard to the underground world will definitely cause turmoil outside. And the world government will definitely pay attention to this matter. At that time, they will not fight like before, and after that, they will definitely fight hard. After hearing what Crane Vice Admiral said, Monk waved his hands with a sneer. Then he spoke forcefully to Crane Vice Admiral. Crane Vice Admiral, you don't have to worry. Before, I also had a contest with the leader of the world government. That guy's strength is really good, and he also injured me. 0 for flowers. 0. Advertisement. But I'm sure that he was definitely not in a normal state at that time. At this time, he must have been seriously injured. Quote. So, I'm not afraid of him at all. Even if it was him who made a heavy hand, so what? Can it do me any harm? So, you still think about how to develop the underground world. Don't think about those useless ones. Quote. Crane Vice Admiral also breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Monk's assurance. Now that Monk already has confidence, then you don't have to worry about it. This time, the main purpose of coming here is to remind Monk and make Monk vigilant. Now that Monk has already competed with the leader of the world government, then I believe that Monk must have his own ideas. So he is not going to stay here any longer. Then Crane Vice Admiral, Zephyr and others left here. After watching the few people leave, Monk thought carefully for a moment. Then he went to the warden, and the warden felt very helpless when he saw Monk coming to him. Advertisement. Chapter 327. Advertisement. From the point of view of the warden, once Monk came to him, he had a lot of things to do. Then he asked Monk helplessly. Tell me, what's going on? After saying this, he also stared at Monk, waiting for Monk's announcement. At this time, Monk also considered his words, and then he spoke forcefully to the warden. I came to you this time, it's not about the 8th 5-year plan. Just wanted to get some news out of you. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the warden breathed a sigh of relief. Then he patted Monk's chest, expressing that he could easily accomplish this matter. Monk also smiled at this time, and said to the warden. My idea is to let you pass the news that Whitebeard and the Whitebeard Pirates have merged into my underground world to the outgoing doctor. Then say a few more words to solicit the words of other strong people, so that my underground world will be full of talents. After hearing what Monk said, the warden also nodded. Then Monk was also driven away. From his point of view, Monk was in trouble once he got here. Advertisement. So, he still didn't want Monk to come here. Now that Monk has already spoken, there is no need for him to let Monk stay here. Monk left here helplessly at this time. In this way, the warden also sent prison experts to spread the news. Once the news of Whitebeard taking refuge in Monk came out, a stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Whether it is the pirates or the world government, they are all extremely shocked. They never expected that one of the four emperors like Whitebeard would surrender to Monk. How can Monk recover so many powerful people? At this time, the leader of the world government was also extremely angry. He couldn't see anything. When he was before, he beat Monk away. But his body was also damaged to a certain extent. At this time, it finally recovered a little. But unexpectedly, Monk actually subdued Whitebeard, one of the four emperors. This is also really unexpected for him. Advertisement. The intelligence officer in front of him was also waiting for orders from the head of the world government. The leader of the world government also considered his words at this moment. 0. Then he spoke forcefully to the intelligence officer in front of him. Now you go outside to recruit some strong men and let them be used by me. Then when there are enough people, I will take you to attack Monk. Thus completely beheading the Monk guy. I see it through. As long as this guy Monk continues to live, then he will not stop. After the intelligence personnel heard the arrangement of the world government leader, they also bid farewell to the world government leader and left here. After the leader of the world government watched the other party leave, he also sat on the seat and meditated quietly. He was thinking about how to effectively kill this guy Monk in the future. The intelligence personnel sent by the head of the world government 3.9 also went to those powerful people in the underwater world at the first time. These strong men are all Murlocs. They all live under the sea. And in the past, there were some ties with the world government. So when the investigators found the Murloc leader, the other party hesitated for a moment. Advertisement. Chapter 328 World Government. Advertisement. He agreed and took people to the world government. The intelligence officer was also very happy at this time. Then they rushed towards the world government with many Murlocs. When the leader of the world government saw the group of Murlocs in front of him, he nodded in relief. In his opinion, since there is help from these people, then after that, he will have a little more chance of winning. At this time, the Murloc leader folded his arms and said to the world government leader. Tell me, what's the matter? I still have a lot of things to deal with. If you don't say anything, I will turn around and leave. After hearing what the other party said, the leader of the world government also hurriedly spoke. 10 inches. I also have a lot to say here. I believe you should have heard the news that Whitebeard has defected to Monk, right? The Murloc leader also nodded after hearing what the world government leader said. Then he asked back to the leader of the world government. So what? What does it matter to us whether Whitebeard joins Monk or not? Advertisement. The leader of the world government also sighed helplessly at this moment. Then he spoke to the Murloc leader. Of course it has nothing to do with you, but it has a close relationship with me. I had a fight with Monk before, and I had a grudge against him. His strength has become stronger, so it is a threat to me. So, I want to take this opportunity to solve this problem. So that there is no helper on Monk's side. Quote. After hearing what the leader of the world government said, the leader of the Murlocs suddenly realized. Then he also nodded, and then asked the leader of the world government. Then if this is the case, tell me about your plan, and I will definitely cooperate with you. At this moment, the leader of the world government also spoke happily. My idea is that you and I will work together to attack the underground world. Then drive away all those people in the underground world, so that they will not cooperate with Monk. And Whitebeard, I'm going to punish him myself. Quote. Advertisement. The leader of the world government also snorted coldly after saying this. Then he gritted his teeth. The Murloc leader couldn't help frowning after hearing what the world government leader said. Then he shook his head. I only heard him speaking to the leader of the world government at this time. No, I don't think it's appropriate to do so. After hearing what the Murloc leader said, the leader of the world government couldn't help raising his eyebrows, and looked at the Murloc leader. Waiting for the other party's answer. At this time, the leader of the Murlocs also spoke to the leader of the world government. The strength of 800, Monk is unquestionable, and there is probably no way for us to defeat it together. Even if we were lucky enough to win. There are so many powerful helpers on Monk's side, so it is impossible for us to defeat Monk. If you want to make a compromise, you must invite some more powerful helpers to attack Monk. Thus killing Monk with one blow. Quote. After hearing what the Murloc leader said, the leader of the world government nodded, thinking it was very reasonable. Then, after scratching the back of his head, he asked the Murloc leader for advice. Advertisement. Chapter 329 Going to the Four Emperors. Advertisement. In that case, can you give me a plan? My head is also muddy now, and I can't think of any good way at all. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the Murloc leader expectantly, wanting to ask the Murloc leader to explain to him. After hearing what the leader of the world government said, the Murloc leader sighed helplessly. Then, after deliberating his words, he spoke forcefully to the leader of the world government. There are very few strong men on my Murloc side, and if they fight on the surface of the sea, they can play a very long role. But if it breaks away from the sea, its combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. So, you have to find some particularly strong players. And the remaining 3-4 emperors, in my opinion, are very good. The strength of each of them is similar to that of Whitebeard, and it is completely possible to send one person to deal with Whitebeard. And the remaining 2-4 emperors can hold back those naval headquarters people. And those men on both sides of you can go to fight those people in Monk's underground world. You and I can work together to defeat Monk. Quote. After hearing what the Murloc leader said, the leader of the world government's eyes widened instantly. Advertisement. It feels very reliable. Then he thanked the Murloc leader and prepared to leave to find Charlotte Linlin, the red hair and others. But at this moment, the Murloc leader also patted the shoulder of the world government leader. Reluctantly said to the leader of the world government. Are you familiar with them? The leader of the world government also nodded after hearing the inquiry from the Murloc leader. Then he stated that he had the right to order them. The Murloc leader breathed a sigh of relief after hearing the other party's reply. Then go into action with the world government leader. After Monk gathered Whitebeard into the underground world, he began to receive some scattered strong men. These powerhouses were also full of curiosity about Monk's underground world after hearing the news that Whitebeard had defected to Monk. So I came here to have a look. It was terrible to see this, and they couldn't leave. Can only be left behind by Monk. Advertisement. These people were still dissatisfied with submitting to Monk in the early stage. But afterwards, each of them was very willing to surrender to Monk. Monk's underground world is also slowly developing. And Monk has been relatively busy recently, so he didn't talk to the leader of the world government at all. So much so that the plans of the leaders of the world government are progressing steadily. At this time, the leader of the world government also found Charlotte Linlin. At this time, Charlotte Linlin was also grabbing a giant cake and eating it. When she saw the head of the world government coming, she also smiled maliciously. Afterwards, he asked the leader of the world government about the reason for his visit. Qian Haohao, the head of the world government, also spoke forcefully to Charlotte Linlin. Quote. Backquote, I came to you this time to prepare for you to cooperate with me to deal with Monk's suffering together. Charlotte Linlin also waved her hand after hearing what the head of the world government said, expressing that she was not interested. The leader of the world government raised his eyebrows subtly at this moment. After deliberating his words, he spoke again to Charlotte Linlin. Advertisement. Chapter 334 Emperors Agree. Advertisement. This time it's Whitebeard, and I want you to fight Whitebeard. When Charlotte Linlin heard the word Whitebeard, she also stood up abruptly. The fat body also stood upright at this moment. Then he also made a decisive decision to cooperate with the leader of the world government. The head of the world government is not satisfied with the four emperors' cooperation. He also found the red hair and Kaido. Then he shared his thoughts with the two of them. The two of them also expressed their willingness to help the leader of the world government. Doing so can be regarded as a favor to the leader of the world government. In this way, after gathering the four emperors, the leader of the world government returned to the world government with great joy. At this time, he also thought that he had already secured the victory. It is certain that 527 can defeat Monk, and then capture Whitebeard back. But at this time, the leader of the world government was not ready to make a quick decision and set off. Because four emperors still needs to prepare well. Advertisement. They haven't dispatched yet, the world government can only wait for them to get ready, and then set off with them. Only then can the plan be foolproof. Otherwise, things will definitely go wrong when the time comes, making it impossible to carry out your plan. In this way, the leader of the world government also waited a few days longer. After Charlotte Linlin, Red, Boff, Hare and Kaido and others arrive. He is also planning to take a few people to the underground world together to find Monk. The four emperors at this time were of course extremely excited. Because in their view, it is their honor to be able to fight so many strong men in the future. At this time, Monk also raised his head and looked forward, the warden who came in a hurry. Then Monk asked the warden suspiciously. Warden, why are you in such a hurry? After hearing Monk's inquiry, the warden sighed helplessly. Then he hurriedly said to Monk, sonorously. The big thing is not good, and the leader of the world government has also recruited many strong people. And it also includes other four emperors. Advertisement. They are coming to our underground world. Get ready sooner. If we wait for the opponent to arrive, and then make hasty preparations on our side, we may be easily defeated by the opponent. Quote. Monk couldn't help frowning after hearing what the warden said. He didn't expect that the leader of the world government was preparing to fight against him again. In the last time, this guy used some strange methods to improve his strength. But after that, he was also silent for a long time. It can be seen from this that this guy must have used some improper means to get injured. Monk thought he was going to subside. But I didn't expect that this guy would intensify and bring many strong people to his side. Does this guy think he can't be pinched from mud? After thinking for a while, he also raised his head and gave orders to the warden. Warden, you go and get everyone from naval headquarters and Whitebeard. I'll tell them about it. And after you conveyed the news to them, you sent all the prison powerhouses in our underground world outside the underground world. Advertisement. Chapter 331 Immediate Support. Advertisement. Let them guard first. Wait until I explain this matter to the people at naval headquarters and Whitebeard. I will support immediately. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the warden also nodded. Then he quickly turned around and left to arrange this matter. Not long after the warden left, Whitebeard and everyone from naval headquarters also came in front of Monk. Monk at this time is also extremely serious. Seeing Monk like this, everyone knew that Monk must have something important to say. Then they also waited quietly for Meng K's notification. After Monk saw that everyone had arrived, he spoke forcefully to the people in front of him. Everyone, the leader of the world government has recruited many strong men to come to our underground world to cause trouble. Among them are the other four emperors. So at this time we are also in some trouble. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, all the generals, whether it was Whitebeard or naval headquarters, became serious. Advertisement. Among other things, these 3-4 emperors are a bit difficult to deal with. Whether it is Whitebeard, Garp, Zephyr, etc., they have all competed with these 4 emperors. We all know the strength of these guys. After everyone was quiet for a while, Whitebeard also spoke loudly to Monk. Don't be afraid, we will definitely be able to solve this matter with our joint efforts. And in my opinion, as long as we have a clear division of labor, we can drive back many people from the world government. Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Garp and others felt very reasonable. In this way, what you say to me is also to divide the opponents that everyone wants to deal with. Whitebeard is going to fight Charlotte Linlin, while Garp, Zephyr and others are going to deal with the other 2-4 emperors respectively. The remaining soldiers of the naval headquarters will focus on dealing with the pirates in the 3-4 emperors' pirate groups. Monk saw how easily these people had arranged things. He is also very pleased. Then he stood up abruptly. After seeing Monk's movements, everyone became quiet in an instant, waiting for Monk's order. I only heard Monk speaking forcefully to these people at this time. Advertisement. 0 for flowers. Everyone, since we are all ready. Then don't wait here any longer. Next, let's set off quickly and solve the world government leader earlier. After hearing Monk's words, everyone nodded again and again. Then Monk also strode forward, walking ahead. The others followed Monk step by step. Under the walking of everyone, they came to the outside of the underground world very quickly. At this time, the leader of the world government also came out of the underground world with a group of people behind him. When he saw Monk coming with everyone, he also laughed wildly. From the perspective of the world government leader, it depends on the number of people behind Monk. There is no way to fight against yourself. Thinking of this, he also said mockingly to the monk in front of him. Monk, you surrender now, and in that case, I will spare your life. After these words were finished, the leader of the world government also burst out laughing. Advertisement. Chapter 332 Take Back Your Soul. Advertisement. The people behind him also laughed loudly. At this time, Monk also frowned slightly after hearing the words of the world government leader. Then he also showed a sarcastic smile. Then he also said to the leader of the world government who was laughing wildly in front of him. We haven't fought yet, and you're saying that our side needs to surrender. Do you guys think too much about August 17th? I advise you to stop daydreaming. Quote. After saying this, Monk snorted disdainfully. This scene also fell into the eyes of the world government leader. At this moment, he also felt the arrogance of this guy Monk. Then he said to Monk in a cold voice. I was going to try to persuade you. As you can see, these people behind me are very powerful. And the number of people is also very large. Just relying on those crooked melons behind you, do you have the confidence to fight against the people on my side? I advise you not to daydream, it is better to surrender earlier. Advertisement. Monk also shook his head after hearing the words of the world government leader. Then he asked coldly to the leader of the world government. Don't say anything more here. Hurry up and tell us why you are here. Otherwise, I will drive people away. As Monk's voice fell, everyone behind him also released their power in unison. At this moment, everyone's strength is gathered together. This made the heart of the leader of the world government suddenly stop at this moment. Then he also suddenly realized that there are many helpers behind him. In this way, he also became more daring. He also pointed to Monk's nose and said to Monk. I'm here this time to stop your underground world. Then bring Whitebeard back to my world government. This guy Whitebeard is going to be the 4 emperors, and he can't join forces at will. To seek refuge should also be in my world government, because of its effectiveness. After saying this, he also waited for Monk's response. Monk couldn't help being stunned at this moment. Advertisement. He didn't expect that this guy's purpose turned out to be Whitebeard.0. Then Monk also turned to look at Whitebeard. At this time, Whitebeard also spread his hands. Then he said to Meng helplessly. You see, I'm useless, the main purpose of the leader of the world government is definitely not me. After Monk heard what Whitebeard said, he suddenly realized. Exactly what Whitebeard said. The leader of the world government worked hard, because this matter has been handled for so long. There's no way he just wanted to take Whitebeard away. His main purpose must be to destroy his own underground world. But it's just that there is no valid reason. And Whitebeard took refuge in himself, which happened to be an opportunity for the 2.1 guy to use it as an offense. So he was going to take this opportunity to find fault. Thinking of this, Monk couldn't help but look at the leader of the world government with contempt. At this moment, the leader of the world government didn't mind Monk's gaze at all. From the perspective of the leader of the world government, as long as it makes Monk feel uncomfortable, it is only natural to do something on his side. After seeing Monk quiet down. Advertisement. Chapter 333 Hurry up and give me an answer. Advertisement. The leader of the world government couldn't help urging. He only heard him urging Monk at this time. Monk, what are you still hesitating about? Hurry up and give me an answer. Do you want to surrender to me? If you immediately surrender now and surrender to me, then I won't care too much about it. Quote. After hearing the words of the world government leader, Monk also spoke to the world government leader in a wolfish way. You fellow, don't you have brains or ears? Didn't I say before that I would not surrender to you? It's a bit stupid that you are still talking about this matter one after another. Now you don't want to be long-winded here. 10. If you want to fight, then all of us can fight. Quote. In the end, let's see who can win. Don't gossip here. Saying those useless things doesn't work at all. Quote. After saying this, Monk also looked at the world government leader in front of him coldly. Advertisement. The leader of the world government was also speechless by Monk. Then he became angry and sent the men behind him to attack Monk. Monk also smiled coldly at this time. Then he spoke loudly to the people behind him. Everyone, let's get ready to fight next. Now that the opponent is ready to fight. So on our side, we can't be too stretched. Let's all move. Quote. After Monk said such words, both Whitebeard and Garp began to gather strength and prepare to rush forward. Teach the world government boss a lesson. Then the two sides also had a clear division of labor, and they met their respective opponents. At this time Whitebeard is also dueling with Charlotte Linlin. On Monk's side, he also stared at the remaining leaders of the world government and Murlocs ahead with scorching eyes. At this time, the two also looked at Monk with malicious intent. Monk also smiled coldly at this time. Then he spoke to the two of them. Advertisement. Since we are all ready to join forces, then don't pretend anymore. Then don't gossip there, hurry up and fight with me. Quote. After saying this, Monk also stretched out a hand and made an extremely unfriendly gesture towards the two of them. After seeing Monk's gesture, the two were also furious from the heart. Then they all rushed to Monk began to launch a powerful attack on Monk. Monk is also using all the devil fruit power in his body at this moment. And Conqueror's Haki is also open to ultimate. The first time Monk made a move, he also looked at the leader of the world government very vigilantly. Because in the past, Monk also suffered from the leader of the world government. So Monk didn't dare to relax too much. I'm afraid that my side will fall into a disadvantage because of a momentary carelessness. But when Monk punched the head of the world government, he also felt strange. At this moment, he is also aware of the weakness in the hands of the world government. Monk thought he felt wrong. But when he fought the opponent again, he also found that his previous perception was not wrong. Then Monk showed a playful smile. Advertisement. Chapter 334 Don't know what to say. Advertisement. I also thought secretly in my heart. Now that his strength is so weak, he still dares to be so rampant in front of him. This is really a bit of a no-brainer. Then Monk also took a step forward, and then used armament Haki to attach it to his arms. He then used the power of the rubber devil fruit to elongate both of his arms. Then they twisted each other, and after the two arms were entangled together, he threw the arms out like a wolf. At this time, the Murloc leader was hit by Monk's attack because of his carelessness. So much so that he also backed up quickly. And clutching his chest, he looked at Monk in disbelief. Seeing that he had knocked away an opponent, Monk relaxed a lot. Then he locked his sights on the leader of the world government. After the leader of the world government noticed Monk's malicious gaze, his complexion changed instantly. Feel very uncomfortable. Then he also frowned, and then turned his power to ultimate. Advertisement. He also wanted to use the power he had before. But his body couldn't support it anymore, and he used it again for the second time. So he can only do his best to attack Monk, trying not to fall into the disadvantage. Waiting for other battlefields, after the manpower on his side defeats the opponent, come to support quickly. But his ideas will eventually come to nothing. Because Monk is also very powerful. As a result, Monk's speed is not slow, and his power is not weak at all. Every attack can beat the leader of the world government until he is dizzy. After dealing with it 2 or 3 times, the leader of the world government finally fell into a disadvantage and was punched hard in the heart by Monk. In the end, the leader of the world government also held his chest and kept stepping backwards. The Murloc leader also recovered at this moment. The suffocating pain just now has also dissipated. At this time, he was also standing in front of the leader of the world government, watching Monk with stern eyes. After Monk saw that the two guys in front of him had no power to fight back, he looked at other battlefields. First go and see if the people on your side have fallen into a disadvantage. Advertisement. If there is, then he must support it. But as Monk glanced around, no one was showing his weakness. This made him happy in an instant. Then he joked and said to the leader of the world government. Quote. Backquote. Now you can also see that neither you nor the Murloc leader can attack me. And those people under your command are all idiots, and none of them can cause harm to our troops. So, I advise you to get out as soon as possible. Otherwise, I don't mind eradicating all of you. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the leader of the world government also showed a sinister and cunning smile, Nuo Qian's. Then he pointed to Monk's side. At this time, Monk also suspiciously looked in the direction of the world government leader's finger. Then saw an incredible scene. In a hidden place, a group of people suddenly appeared. After these people appeared, they were also extremely purposeful, that is, they were the strong ones who attacked the underground world. When Monk saw this scene, he became angry instantly. Advertisement. Chapter 335 Fighting between both sides. Advertisement. He is also in a hurry to support. But the number of opponents is too large, so that even though Monk is strong, he is powerless. He just rescued some of the powerhouses in the underground world. And some other strong men in the underground world died just like that. At this moment, Whitebeard was also punched by Charlotte Linlin because of a distraction. Then a small piece of the soul was taken by Charlotte Linlin. In order not to fall into a disadvantage, he also retreated quickly. Soon, he came to Monk's side. Seeing Whitebeard at this time, 100 Monk couldn't help frowning. He clearly felt that Whitebeard's breath was a little sluggish at this time. Then he asked Whitebeard, "Whitebeard, what's the matter with you?" After hearing Monk's inquiry, Whitebeard also spoke to Monk out of breath. "Charlotte Linlin, that guy, actually took a little piece of my soul. It seems that in the future, I must also be subject to him." Quote. After saying this, Whitebeard also let out a long sigh. Advertisement. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk couldn't help frowning. Then he also shouted loudly in order to prevent the enemy forces from continuing to suffer damage. "Everyone, stop and come back quickly." Following Monk's shout, many strong men in the underground world also stepped back one after another. Then he returned behind Monk, looking fiercely at the leader of the world government in front of him. The leader of the world government also laughed out loud when he saw that the people on Monk's side had suffered. At this time, he was also extremely gloating. At this time, Monk also said to the leader of the world government in a cold voice, "Let Charlotte Linlin hand over Whitebeard's soul. Otherwise, I don't mind killing Charlotte Linlin and you myself, Bea." After hearing what Monk said, the leader of the world government couldn't help being shocked. Then he turned to look at Charlotte Linlin. Charlotte Linlin was also grinning slyly at this time. Seeing the other party's smile, the leader of the world government understood in an instant. Then he turned his head and said to Monk jokingly, "Whitebeard's soul power, I waited for everyone to get it with great difficulty. Advertisement. How could it be so easy to return it to you? You stop daydreaming." Quote. Monk couldn't help becoming angry at this moment. He didn't mention the casualties of those strong men in his underground world just now. Mainly because of wanting to get Whitebeard's soul back. That's why I'm not going to tear myself apart with each other. But these guys are so despicable. It seems that if I don't give them a little color, these guys are not ready to give in. Then Monk wanted to take a step forward, wanting to kill all these people in front of him. But at this moment, Whitebeard also patted Monk's shoulder with a big hand. Monk also turned his head to look at this time. I only heard Whitebeard speaking to Monk at this time. "Leave it to me next." After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk couldn't help hesitating. Then he took a step back. Whitebeard also stepped forward at this time. Advertisement. Chapter 336. Advertisement. Then, with a serious face, he spoke to the leader of the world government. At this time, because the two sides have already fought hard. If this continues, both parties will suffer. If you want to continue to retain your strength, then you should leave with these people. Instead of continuing here, entanglement. Quote. After hearing what Whitebeard said, the leader of the world government also became thoughtful. He also had the same idea, but he took a lot of trouble to bring everyone here. Don't you just want to get some benefits? In the end, nothing was gained, and some people were lost. It would be inappropriate to just go back like this, and people would probably make fun of it. Then he also said to Whitebeard in front of him in a cold voice. Are you being cowardly here? If this is the case, surrender quickly. In that case, I can still spare your life. Quote. After saying this, the leader of the world government also looked at Whitebeard indifferently in front of him. Whitebeard also shook his head helplessly at this time. Advertisement. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government in front of him. I'm negotiating with you at this time. If it's Monk, the two of you must have already started fighting at this time. But don't think I'm easy to talk to. My temper is also not very good. Let you leave, and you will leave. I know what you're thinking. Don't you just want some benefits? And have some gains, so that others will not think you are ashamed. That being the case, I will go back with you. Quote. After saying this, Whitebeard was ready to move forward. At this time, Monk also hurriedly patted Whitebeard's shoulder, trying to make Whitebeard stop. At this time, Whitebeard also turned his head and blinked at Monk. Monk also stopped moving instantly at this moment. Then he crossed his arms and looked at Whitebeard in front of him. Whitebeard also quickly came to the side of the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government was also taken aback when he saw Whitebeard coming. Then he laughed wildly. Advertisement. Pointing at Monk, he mocked. Monk frowned at this time in order not to disrupt Whitebeard's plan, and said nothing. Zero seeking flowers. After the leader of the world government taunted Monk for a while, he also felt that it was meaningless. Then he spoke to Monk again. Since my side has already taken a huge advantage, then we will leave next. If you want to seek revenge from us in the future, you are welcome. Quote. After saying these words, he also gathered his men and took Whitebeard away into the distance. After watching Whitebeard and the others leave, Monk sighed helplessly. Then he asked the warden to bring all the strong men from the underground world back to the underground world. After the warden received Monk's order, he began to step up his operations. And Monk returned to the office room where he stayed with a gloomy face. After the warden finished those things, he also quickly came to Monk. After seeing the warden coming, Monk also nodded towards the warden. Then he waited for the warden to ask questions. At this time, the warden also considered his words, and then asked Monk about death. Advertisement. Chapter 337 Getaway. Advertisement. Monk, why did you let Whitebeard go so easily? The previous performance of this guy can also be said to have run away. Quote. After hearing what the warden said, Monk also shook his head. Then he looked at the warden seriously. Then sonorously, he explained to the warden. Whitebeard didn't really get cold feet. He may have some. May 87 inches plan, so he left with the leader of the world government. And it is worth mentioning that a piece of his soul has been taken by Charlotte Linlin. If he doesn't follow, Charlotte Linlin will take advantage of his soul. Then Whitebeard is likely to die. Quote, even if our side has the ability to revive him, his strength is likely to be greatly reduced. So, he should indeed leave with the world government leader. Quote. After hearing what Monk said, the warden also asked Monk back. You mean to say that Whitebeard left with the head of the world government in order to get his soul back? And don't really want to surrender to the head of the world government? Advertisement. Monk also nodded when he heard the warden's rhetorical question. Then he spoke to the warden. Yes, you are absolutely right. Well, let's stop talking about what's there and what's not. Next, you send some men to arm the defense to meet Whitebeard. To prevent Whitebeard from wanting to separate from the world government, but suffering from no chance. After saying this, Monk also waved to the warden. Signal the warden to hurry up and arrange this matter. After hearing Monk's words, the warden also nodded hastily. Then he left here quickly. As for Whitebeard, he followed the leader of the world government and rushed towards the world government. At this time, the leader of the world government also showed that ugly face. He also kept belittling Monk, and confirmed to Whitebeard the accuracy of his words. Whitebeard could only pretend to be complacent at the moment. In this way, after everyone returned to world government, the leader of world government also took the soul from Charlotte Linlin's hand. 0. Advertisement. Then all the strong men who were summoned from outside were driven away. In his opinion, since Whitebeard is here to guard his side, then he doesn't need to be afraid of those Xiao anymore. Even if Monk came, he would dare to compete with Monk. And sure enough, he can beat Monk easily. After he drove everyone away, the leader of the world government also found Whitebeard. At this time, Whitebeard also frowned unobtrusively when he saw the leader of the world government. But then his brows also stretched. Then he waited for the leader of the world government to speak. At this time, the leader of the world government also spoke forcefully to Baihu 0.4. Whitebeard, I'm going to ask you something right now. Whitebeard is also pricking up his ears at this moment, wanting to hear what the other party has to say. At this time, the leader of the world government also spoke to Whitebeard again. My idea is to accept you as my subordinate. You can serve me later, so join me in fighting Monk. Advertisement. Chapter 338 Fake Surrender. Advertisement. If you agree, then the soul in my hand can be returned to you. But if you insist on confronting me, sorry, I can only destroy this group of souls. Quote. After Whitebeard heard the words of the leader of the world government, he froze in place for an instant. Then he hurriedly said to the world government leader in front of him. I am willing to surrender to you, as long as you return the power of that soul to me. Then there will be no hesitation at all. Quote. After saying this, he also looked at the leader of the world government with burning eyes, waiting for the other party to return his soul to him. World government leader 10 also laughed out loud at this time. At this time, he had also anticipated the scene where he made Monk kneel down and beg for mercy. Monk would never have imagined that he had already subdued Whitebeard. He was happy here but didn't realize that Whitebeard's eyes were on his soul all the time. After he finished laughing, Whitebeard's voice also reached his ears. Now that I have surrendered to you, can you return that group of souls to me? Quote. After saying this, Whitebeard looked expectantly at the leader of the world government. Advertisement. Looking forward to the other party returning the soul to him. After hearing what Whitebeard said, the leader of the world government also nodded hastily. Then he threw out the soul in his hand. Whitebeard caught it nervously at this moment too. After that, it was like how to look at a baby, and looked around. Then he slowly sent it into his body. After the group of souls were completely absorbed into the body, the day was relieved. He now feels that the vacancy in his body has completely disappeared. At this time, the leader of the world government also spoke to Whitebeard in front of him. Since you have surrendered, I will order you to attack Monk next. After saying this, he also looked at Whitebeard in front of him with a smile on his face. After Whitebeard heard the words of the leader of the world government, he did not move. This made the leader of the world government frown instantly. Then he also said to Whitebeard coldly, Advertisement. Could it be that you guys want to disobey my orders? After Whitebeard heard the words of the head of the world government, he also laughed wildly. Then he also said loudly to the leader of the world government. Just because you, a despicable guy, want me to surrender, are you worthy? You guys are nothing more than a fake tiger. Now that I have already taken back my soul, then in the next step, you 380 just wait to die. 1 inch. After saying this, Whitebeard rushed straight to the leader of the world government. At this moment, the leader of the world government also looked at Whitebeard in disbelief. He didn't expect that Whitebeard would go back on his word. He had promised well just now, but at this moment, he actually betrayed by saying betrayal. Then he also wanted to point Whitebeard's nose and scold Whitebeard. But thinking again, his strength is not as strong as that of Whitebeard. Then he hurriedly took a few steps back. Use this to avoid Whitebeard's attack. Advertisement. Chapter 339 Destruction of the World Government. Advertisement. Whitebeard also snorted coldly at this moment, and then used the power to shake Devil Fruit. Swing towards the air in front of you. Then there was a shock wave. This shock wave is also attacking the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government also escaped quickly. He is also a little embarrassed now, but no matter what, saving his life is the most important thing. In this way, under the desperate escape of the leader of the world government, he finally escaped from here. He was also the one who started to gather the fighters to fight Whitebeard. And the leader of the world government also hid in the dark and hid himself. He now also hates Whitebeard immensely. Now he hated Whitebeard more than he hated Monk. He really wants to eat this guy Whitebeard alive. The current leader of the world government also began to regret that he had driven away the strong men who had been summoned before. If those strong players still stay here, it is impossible for Whitebeard to make any big waves. I can definitely easily suppress Whitebeard. Advertisement. When the leader of the world government was thinking wildly, Whitebeard also started killing in the world government. He kept attacking the people around him. Each of the fighters in the world government is an elite. And it is also very powerful when combined. It's a pity that the enemy he faced was very powerful. Whitebeard, the four emperors, also made them feel pressured. And under Whitebeard's every move, several fighters will die tragically. Finally, many world government fighters couldn't resist it anymore. Started to flee around. The leader of the world government is also in a hurry to let these fighters come back to resist Whitebeard. So as to find a chance to kill Whitebeard. Even if Whitebeard cannot be killed, he must be seriously injured. But at this time, the words of the leader of the world government are useless. Those fighters in the world government also want to save their lives at this moment. So no one listened to him, and some even cursed at the leader of the world government, and then fled in a hurry. Advertisement. Soon, the leader of the world government is only left with a polished commander. Whitebeard also laughed out loud when he saw the lonely appearance of the leader of the world government. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government in front of him. Repent now, but what good is regret? Who told you to fight against Monk before? Now that I'm on Monk, I should be playing for Monk all the time. And you guys are fighting Monk all the time. So since this is the case, I can only launch an attack on you, and then you should quickly surrender. Otherwise, I will not spare you, good Li Jiao. After saying this, Whitebeard also looked coldly at the leader of the world government in front of him. The leader of the world government also looked at Whitebeard in dismay at this moment. And then the column of hope for life was also ignited. He's not going to die here. And he's not going to join Monk either. So since this is the case, he can only escape far away. Then find the previous strong players to cooperate with them, so as to turn defeat into victory. Advertisement. Chapter 340 Underground World. Advertisement. After making up his mind, the leader of the world government also frantically fled to the distance. At this time, Whitebeard also lost interest in chasing the leader of the world government. In his opinion, the leader of the world government at this time is a waste who only knows how to escape. There is no pleasure in chasing this guy. In this way, after Whitebeard watched the leader of the world government leave, he also looked at the empty world government. Then he sighed and left towards the courtyard. In the underground world, Monk also received a report from the warden. I learned about the current situation of the world government from the warden. This made Monk extremely happy. At this time, the warden also said to the grinning Monk in front of him. Monk, what are we going to do? 457 After hearing the words of the warden, Monk also considered his words. Then he spoke forcefully to the warden in front of him. At this time, of course we are going to meet the hero of Whitebeard. Since he has done such an important thing, how can we not greet him? Advertisement. Now send someone with me to pick up Whitebeard, I want to give him a big congratulations. After hearing Monk's words, the warden also backed away slowly. Then go arrange it, and Monk also stood up after thinking for a while, and walked back outside. After Monk left his residence, the warden also brought a large group of people and gathered there. Thus awaiting Monk's action, Monk also nodded in satisfaction at this time. Then he moved forward with the people behind him. When Whitebeard returned to the outside of the underground world, he was also shocked by the scene in front of him. He didn't expect that these people would be surrounded outside. Then he also asked Monk suspiciously. Monk, what are you doing here? Why are you all gathered here? After saying this, he also waited for Monk's answer. Monk also smiled slightly after hearing Whitebeard's question. Advertisement. Then he spoke forcefully to Whitebeard. All of us gathered here to welcome you, a great hero. After Whitebeard heard Monk's words, he understood the whole story in an instant. Then he scratched the back of his head and smiled embarrassedly. At this time, Monk also smiled and walked to Whitebeard's side. After patting Whitebeard on the shoulder, he prepared to take Whitebeard back to the underground world. At this time, Whitebeard suddenly thought of something. Then he spoke loudly to Monk. Monk, I've kicked out the head of the world government. The world government at this time has also become an empty shell, why don't we take advantage of the present to occupy the world government? After saying this, he also looked at Monk with burning eyes. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Monk smiled slightly. Then he didn't care, and said to Whitebeard, since the world government is already empty, no one will occupy it in the recent period of time. We can definitely delay it for a few more days. The most important thing now is to set up a banquet for you to celebrate your achievements. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 341 Finding Help. Advertisement. After saying this, Monk also dragged Whitebeard to the underground world. Numerous strong men also followed in unison. At this time, Whitebeard couldn't refuse Monk's enthusiasm. He also followed behind Monk, walking forward. And the leader of the world government also rushed directly to Kaido's territory after leaving the world government. The reason why he came to look for Kaido at this time. It's because Kaido doesn't have a lot of brains. Compared with Charlotte Linlin's unreasonable and red-haired wisdom. Kaido is better at communicating. When the leader of the world government came to Kaido, Kaido couldn't believe it. After looking at the embarrassed world government leader in front of him, he also asked the world government leader suspiciously. How did you get so messed up? Tell me, what is the reason? After finishing these words, he was also waiting for the answer from the leader of the world government. After hearing Kaido's inquiry, the leader of the world government couldn't help recalling that very bad memory. Advertisement. He also gritted his teeth at this moment, and replied to Kaido in front of him. It's all because of damn Whitebeard. After being captured and brought back by me, this guy also humiliated and pretended to surrender to me. When he said he wanted to surrender to me and took his mutilated soul from me, he even launched an attack on me. Then my world government was destroyed in a bad way. I can only run away in embarrassment. This time I came to you, I just want to cooperate with you. So kill the Whitebeard guy. Quote. After hearing the words of the world government leader, Kaido also burst out laughing. He also felt very funny. The extremely clever and arrogant leader of the world government was actually crushed in the hands of Whitebeard. This made him very happy. At this time, the leader of the world government also spoke to Kaido in an angry manner. Kaido, express your opinion quickly. Do you want to help me? As long as you help me kill Whitebeard, and then get rid of Monk. Then later, I can share some supplies with you in Monk's underground world. Quote. Kaido also nodded after hearing the words of the world government leader. Advertisement. Zero looking for flowers. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. Okay, this time I will help you. I'm also very interested in fighting the Whitebeard guy. Quote. The leader of the world government was also very happy after hearing too many answers. Since I have already cooperated with the 4 emperors. Then in the future, the 2 remaining 4 emperors will definitely not refuse. In this way, he is also going to take Kaido to find the remaining 4 emperors. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also saw the 2 people in front of her. At this time, Kaido and the leader of the world government also talked about their intentions in the future. Charlotte Linlin also didn't expect that the thing that should have a chance of winning was screwed up by the head of the world government. This made her feel very unbelievable. Then she nodded in embarrassment, ready to help the leader of the world government again. In this way, with the joint efforts of the 3 of them, the red hair was also persuaded. Then everyone rushed towards the world government in unison. I want to get the world government back into my hands. Advertisement. Chapter 342 for uninvited guests. Advertisement. As for Monk, after preparing for a period of time, he began to send people to the place where the world government is located. So I want to occupy the world government earlier. In this way, under the leadership of Monk and Whitebeard et al. They also came to the world government. But as soon as he arrived here, he saw the 4 uninvited guests in front of him. Monk is also crossing his arms at this moment, looking at the guys in front of him with a playful 4-3. Then Monk waved his hands at these people and greeted them. When the leader of the world government saw Monk's face that deserved a beating, he was also furious from the heart. Pointing to Monk's nose, he began to curse at Monk. The smile on Monk's face also slowly disappeared. At this time, he also looked at the world government leader in front of him indifferently. Then he said coldly to the leader of the world government. I advise you to keep some virtue in your mouth. If you dare to disrespect me again, don't blame me for beheading you at this moment. There are a lot of people on my side. Quote. At this time, the leader of the world government also shut his mouth in an instant. Advertisement. Then he also stared at Monk with his eyes. If eyes could kill, Monk would have died thousands of times by now. Monk also laughed out loud when he saw that the leader of the world government was frightened into such a ghost by his own words. Then he spoke to the 3-4 emperors in front. Ladies and gentlemen, this trip to Muddy Water is not something you can afford. I advise you to leave earlier. If you insist on intervening, don't blame me for being rude to you. When the time comes when I'm dealing with the leaders of the world government, I don't mind taking action against you. After saying this, Monk snorted coldly. Kaido also spoke to Monk in a low voice at this moment. You guys are not very old, and your tone is not small. How dare you directly provoke the 3 of us at this moment? I really don't know what makes you brave. Since you are so crazy, let me try your strength. Quote. After saying this, Kaido approached Monk with big strides. Monk is not afraid at this time. At this moment, he is also walking forward with a sneer on his face. 0. Advertisement. Then he stood facing Kaido. At this moment, Monk also spoke to Kaido. It's not appropriate to have such a boring battle. In my opinion, we should have some rewards. Whoever wins can get these things. How? After hearing what Monk said, Kaido nodded heavily, expressing his agreement. Seeing that Kaido agreed, Monk also spoke to Kaido. In that case, let me tell you. We will make a decision now. If I win you, you will never be in this matter again. And if I lose, I will turn around and leave, and I will never confront the world government leader in the future. After hearing what Monk said, Kaido 4.5 also scratched the back of his head. Then he nodded. In his opinion, Monk's condition is not too much. But at this time, the leader of the world government was not happy. He was also very fast, and came to Kaido's side. Then he said to Monk coldly. Advertisement. Chapter 343 Very helpless. Advertisement. No, if you do this, you guys will take advantage of it too. Monk also felt very helpless after hearing the words of the leader of the world government. How can you take advantage of yourself by doing this? Could it be that he doesn't trust Kaido? Before Monk wanted to refute, the leader of the world government spoke again. Unless you defeat them all. As he said that, the leader of the world government pointed to Kaido, the redhead, and Charlotte Linlin again. Monk also nodded after hearing what the world government leader said. From Monk's point of view, the strength of these people is about the same. Since he can dare to fight against Whitebeard, and can easily defeat Whitebeard. Then these 10 or so people were no problem, and finally Monk nodded. This scene was also seen by the leader of the world government. It was also at this time that he widened his eyes and opened his mouth, unable to believe it. He didn't expect that Monk would agree to this matter so quickly. At this time, he was a little suspicious, whether what he just said was wrong. So much so that Monk didn't understand. Advertisement. Monk also felt very impatient when he saw the hesitant world government leader ahead. I only heard him speaking helplessly to the leader of the world government at this time. Why are you so fussy? Now that I've agreed, you'd better get out and don't disturb my fight with Kaido. Quote. At this time, Kaido is also somewhat dissatisfied with the leader of the world government. Then he also reprimanded the leader of the world government. Let the world government chief go and don't stop him from fighting the monk. The leader of the world government also stepped back quickly, looking at the two people in front of him. At this time, Monk and Kaido also stood facing each other. Slowly, the two of them also began to adhere to the area. Then the war broke out. The two sides are also using their respective powerful forces to continuously attack each other. Anyone with a discerning eye can also see that Monk has the upper hand at this time. But Kaido is slowly losing. Kaido also never thought that Monk would become so powerful. He had no choice but to use the power of Devil Fruit. Advertisement. After the Devil Fruit's power was used, Monk also felt the increase in Kaido's power at this time. But it still doesn't affect Monk. Monk is still very relaxed at this time. In this way, under the exhaustion of Monk's side, it is also a 3.522 solution to solve the excessive armor. Kaido also took a few steps back quickly. Then he looked warily at the monk in front of him. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also came in front of Kaido. 520 then asked Kaido seriously. Monk guy, what's the point? And he is somewhere strong. Quote. Although they watched the battle from the sidelines. But in general, Kaido, who faced Monk's attack directly, did not know as much news. After hearing Charlotte Linlin's question, Kaido couldn't help frowning, and answered Charlotte Linlin. Monk is great in every way. And this person's Haki is also extremely powerful, and his armament Haki is also ridiculously strong. I couldn't shake his body. Advertisement. Chapter 344 Kaido is defeated. Advertisement. And pay special attention, this guy's devil fruit power is a bit weird. After saying this, Kaido also coughed a few times. Charlotte Linlin also nodded at this moment, and she knew it in her heart. Then she stepped forward and confronted Monk. Monk is still so relaxed at this moment. I only heard that at this time, he also spoke to Charlotte Linlin. Since we've all arrived here, there's no need to hold back anymore. Do your best. I didn't enjoy the fight with Kaido just now. Quote. After saying this sentence, he also burst out laughing. Charlotte Linlin also had a gloomy face at this moment. Kaido couldn't make Monk pay too much attention. Then it is very difficult for her to fight against Monk. Although, she always said that she was the strongest among the 4 emperors. But in terms of real strength, she really has no way to compete with Kaido. Advertisement. So, Monk is also a great threat to her. Then she also let out a breath, and then summoned those clouds and weapons made of her own soul. When Monk saw the talking clouds and the long knife with a mouth, he couldn't help raising his eyebrows. I feel very interesting. Charlotte Linlin's devil fruit is also extremely interesting. If you can get the opponent's devil fruit, it will also be a big help. At this time, Charlotte Linlin was also frightened by Monk's eyes. Then she also spoke viciously to Monk. If you want to fight, fight, don't just look around. After hearing what Charlotte Linlin said, Monk also nodded. Then after twisting his neck, he was ready to attack. At this time, armament Haki is attached to his whole body. At this moment, Charlotte Linlin is also the armament Haki who attached the long knife. She was going to use her giant's strongest trick to split Monk in two. Monk also bounced at this moment, then jumped and disappeared in place. When he appeared, he also jumped into the air above Charlotte Linlin's head. Advertisement. At this time, Charlotte Linlin also hurriedly used observation Haki to perceive. Then she took a few steps back, and when she stopped, Conqueror's Haki also swayed out. Monk also had a sneer at the corner of his mouth at this time. At the same time used the Conqueror's Haki to compete with each other. With the two powerful Conquerors raging, the people watching the battle all around became nervous. The few tyrannical people all smiled. Because of this kind of battle between the strong, they have rarely seen it. Generally speaking, as long as they are strong, they have scruples. But at this time, this group of guys actually fought like this, which made them enjoy watching. At this time, Wang Dahao, the two colors of Conqueror's Haki are also confronting each other. At this time, Monk looked relaxed, while Charlotte Linlin was sweating profusely, embarrassed and not easy to stand. Anyone with a discerning eye can see who is strong and who is weak. At this time, Whitebeard also spoke to the warden next to him. Now prepare quickly on your side and finish the finishing work. Quote. After this sentence was finished, he also looked at the battle between the two in front with great interest again. Advertisement. Chapter 345 Prepare to finish. Advertisement. After hearing what Whitebeard said, the warden also took a look at the battle ahead. Then, he gave orders to the many underwater world powerhouses and marine behind him, making them ready for finishing. With the order of the warden, many people also began to make preparations one after another. And Monk has already knocked Charlotte Linlin to the ground. Then he spoke to the 4 emperors ahead. Since the 3 of you have already lost, don't fight me anymore. Hurry up where you came from and cool off. The conflict between me and the world government is not something you can intervene in. After saying this, Monk also waved his hands towards several people. After hearing what Monk said, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others also frowned. But they 607 didn't say anything. Because they had already made an agreement before. As long as they lose, they will leave and will never interfere in the next thing. Advertisement. Now that he has lost, he is not qualified to stay here. Then the 3 of them also bowed their hands towards Monk, turned and left. At this moment, the leader of the world government hurriedly greeted the 3 of them. As if the 3 of them hadn't heard the words of the leader of the world government, they still left towards the distance. In the eyes of the 3 of them, the leader of the world government is just a guy who cannot be supported by mud. If you want strength, you don't have strength. If you want wisdom, you don't have wisdom. There is no need for them to continue to help the world government leader. Seeing a few people walking out in such a hurry, they ignored him at all. He was also very angry, and then the leader of the world government also attributed all the reasons for this incident to Monk. From his point of view, it must be Monk's doing. Otherwise, the few powerhouses he invited would never leave. Then he spoke viciously to Monk. You must have used some despicable means to bring down Charlotte Linlin, Kaido and others. I don't believe you can really be that strong. Quote. Monk couldn't help but spread his hands after hearing the words of the leader of the world government. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. Advertisement. I don't care if you believe it or not, I've done this anyway. You have to admit it even if you don't. Well, I won't talk to you anymore. Next, I will give you 2 options. The first option is to kneel down and surrender to me. In that case, the previous grievances between us can be written off. Quote. And the second option is to continue fighting. Then your consequence can only be beheaded by me. Quote. After saying this, he folded his arms and looked at the leader of the world government indifferently. And the warden also sent many underground world powerhouses to clean up the battlefield. The fighters behind the world government leader were also surrounded by many powerful people from the underwater world. The leader of the world government let out a long sigh when he saw that he was already powerless, revolving heaven. He wasn't going to surrender to Monk just like that. Because he didn't want to submit to Monk, a boring guy. He is also determined, even if he dies, he will continue to fight Monk. I saw that he also stretched out his finger at this time, pointing to Monk's nose. Advertisement. Chapter 346 Disdain to be with you. Advertisement. Then he said to Monk in a cold voice. Don't dream anymore, I will never surrender to you. Just relying on you as AB **************** D, I don't bother to be with you. Quote. Even if I die today, I will continue to fight with you. After saying this, the leader of the world government also used armament Haki to cover his whole body. Then, like an angry bull, he rushed towards Monk. After Monk saw the leader of the world government arriving in front of him, he also clenched his fist and slammed forward. The leader of the world government also stepped back quickly at this time. He was going backwards faster than he was running. Because just now Monk not only used armament Haki, but also used the power of devil fruit. So Monk's punch is not something this guy can take. Aokiji, Akainu and the others also looked at each other when they saw the head of the world government being sent flying by Monk. At this time, the 3 of them could see the strange look in each other's eyes. I only heard that Aokiji also lowered his voice at this time, and said to the 2 people next to him. What do you guys think? Should we continue to help Monk, or should we help the leader of the world government? The situation at this time is that the leader of the world government has the upper hand. Quote. Advertisement. After hearing what Aokiji said, Akainu and Kizaru thought for a while. Then Akainu also spoke to Aokiji. Whether Monk has the upper hand or not, we are not going to continue working with Monk. Next we are ready to help the world government leader. Quote. As the so-called wealth are found in insurance, as long as you can help the leader of the world government rebuild the world government. Then the 3 of us are great heroes. When the time comes, we can't get what we want. Don't you think so? After hearing Akainu's words, Aokiji and Kizaru nodded heavily. In their opinion, park dogs are very trees. Afterwards, the 3 of them also looked at each other, then nodded emphatically. Just like that, the 3 of them disappeared in place in an instant. When they reappeared, they also came behind the leader of the world government. The leader of the world government originally thought that he would be seriously injured like this. But he felt someone catch him from behind. 0 for flowers 0. Advertisement. When he turned his head to look in doubt, he couldn't help frowning. Because appearing behind him is Marine 3 Admiral. These 3 people obviously followed Marine and took refuge in Monk. Why did these 3 people appear behind him? I only heard that the leader of the world government also asked Kizaru, Akainu and others at this time. 0. Why do you help me? Is it because I feel sorry for you? After hearing the words of the leader of the world government, Akainu also laughed twice. Then he spoke forcefully to the leader of the world government. How is it possible? We just want to help you. Because we really can't understand Monk. So I don't want him to succeed, but if you help you drive Monk away, you can make the world government better again. The three of us will also be great heroes. Quote. What do the three of us want then? If you don't give it, it will appear that you are very stingy. Quote. After saying this, Akainu laughed again. Advertisement. Chapter 347. Great Rebellion. Advertisement. After hearing what Akainu said, the leader of the world government nodded in agreement. Then he straightened his back happily and looked at Monk. Monk frowned when he saw Marine 3 Admiral appearing behind the world government leader. I want to see what's going on with these three guys. After he heard the three people say the treasonous words before. When Monk was looking at Marines 3, 420, generals, his eyes all had a fierce look. From Monk's point of view, these three guys can't stay. Because these three people are just three-walled grass, they have come to trouble themselves several times. It's not very good that I still spared them there. If you think you have a good temper, you are wrong. And these three guys obviously took their side as a soft persimmon. On my own side, I must make them pay the price, and I must erase them or imprison them for life. After making up his mind, Monk also said in a cold voice to Marine 3 Admiral behind the world government leader. Is this your choice? I have to say, your choice is really bad. After saying this, Monk also spread his hands. Advertisement. After hearing Monk's ridicule, Akainu spoke to Monk indifferently. You don't have to mock us, since we have already made a decision. Then you will never regret it. And it is worth mentioning that, in our opinion, this decision is very much in line with our wishes. We are ready to fight with you, and you don't want to say those high-sounding words there. Quote. After saying this, Yin also sneered. Then he put his palm on the back of the world government leader. After seeing Akainu's actions, Kizaru and Aokiji also stepped forward. They put their palms on the backs of the world government leaders. The leader of the world government still doesn't understand why these people are doing this. But when he felt an extremely tyrannical force emerge from his body, he also understood the reason of the matter. It turned out that these three people wanted to give their power to their side. In the past, he really couldn't beat Monk. But since they have the help of Marine 3 Admiral, then they are sure. 0. Definitely be able to beat Monk. Advertisement. Then he also became rampant. I only heard him talking to Monk at this time. With the help of Marine 3 Admiral, I will definitely defeat you. If you are sensible, get out of here quickly, if not, I don't mind killing you. Quote. After saying this, he also snorted coldly. Then he also looked at Monk viciously. Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows at this time. Then he answered to the leader of the world government. Based on your trash, plus Marine and Admiral, these three trash. 4 wastes gathered together, can they still defeat me? So far, the 2.9 strong players behind me haven't made a move yet. You have already released all the whole cards. Quote. It can be seen from this that you are not a powerful guy. Since you are so rampant, I won't hold back anymore, and I will definitely kill you. Quote. After saying this, he also rushed forward and launched an attack on the leader of the world government. Advertisement. Chapter 348 Counterattack. Advertisement. The leader of the world government has also just received the power of Marine and Admiral. Then began to counterattack. I saw that he also slapped out a palm at this time, and the palm was also slapped straight towards Monk's head. He wants to take this opportunity to kill with one blow, but Monk is very experienced in combat. When he saw the palm of the leader of the world government, his eyes widened suddenly. Conqueror's Haki also swept away. The leader of the world government also used Conqueror's Haki in midair to fight against it. And his attack also stopped. At this moment, the two confronted again with Conqueror's Haki. Monk also twisted his neck 10 times at this time, and then controlled the Conqueror's Haki again. Using the Conqueror's Haki caused the world government boss to retreat a great distance back. Monk also smiled coldly when he saw that he had crushed the leader of the world government like this with only Conqueror's Haki. Then the whole person appeared behind the world government leader in an instant. All the power of devil fruit is blessed on the body. Advertisement. And all his Haki are also used, trying to kill the leader of the world government with one punch. The leader of the world government also snapped his fingers lightly at this time. Then the whole person appeared in front of him, and several bombs appeared at the position where he was originally standing. Monk was also blown out all at once. Although Monk was not injured, he was disgusted by the move of the world government leader. Then Monk snorted coldly, jumped up and continued to attack the leader of the world government. The head of the world government is not prepared to confront Monk in this one either. Because he knows that his own strength is still far behind, so he is not prepared to fight the opponent head on at this moment. Then he also quickly dodged. After Monk attacked twice, he found that the leader of the world government had been hiding behind him. He also stood there, and said coldly to the leader of the world government. UB************* D is too shameless. It's really disgusting to be avoiding all the time. If you want to fight, come and fight with me quickly. Advertisement. Don't shrink back there, aren't you a coward? The leader of the world government didn't refute what he said, he wasn't going to talk to Monk. Monk also frowned at this time, and did not attack the leader of the world government again. And the leader of the world government also stopped. Then they clapped their hands, and some strangely dressed strong men came out from the world government again. After seeing these strong men, Monk couldn't help raising his eyebrows. 177. Then he spoke to the leader of the world government. I didn't expect that you guy still has a backhand. I thought you were just an idiot. Quote. After saying this, Monk also smiled coldly. After hearing what Monk said, the leader of the world government also spoke to Monk. Being able to get to this point, do you think that I can safely sit in this position without any scheming? That would be some idiot's dream. Alright, I won't talk too much with you. If you want to continue fighting, I will accompany you. And if you leave, I won't stop you either. Advertisement. Chapter 349. Advertisement. In fact, I would say that you should leave, because the number of our two men is about the same. Although there are relatively few strong people on my side, all of them are of medium or low strength. But it is completely capable of dealing with your attack. Quote. If you want to kill us all, you will have to pay a certain price. If you are determined to use your hands to exchange lives with the people on our side, just pretend that I didn't say what I just said. Quote. After finishing these words, he couldn't help laughing coldly. He is now sure of winning, and thinks that Monk will never stay here. As expected, Monk could only sigh after thinking about it for a while. Then he turned his head and said to the warden, Warden, let's get out of here next. The warden couldn't help being stunned at this moment. He didn't expect that Monk was planning to retreat at such a good time. Then he also wanted to go up to persuade Monk. But at this moment, Whitebeard also patted the warden on the shoulder. Then he spoke to the warden. Advertisement. There is no need to persuade him, the situation at this time can only be like this. If we continue to fight each other, many people on our side will definitely die. After saying this, he also shook his head. At this time, the warden was also stunned, and then he sighed helplessly. Started to do this according to Monk's instructions. It's just a quick effort. Under the arrangement of the warden, many strong people in the underwater world have also been rectified. Ready to leave with Monk. Monk also stared fiercely at the leader of the world government for a few times, and then left here with many powerful people from the underwater world. The leader of the world government also burst out laughing after seeing Monk leaving with everyone. Then he also looked at Marine and Admiral and thanked them. Then he also entered the world government with Marine 3 Admiral. Marine and Admiral also looked at each other. Then he followed behind the leader of the world government and entered the world government. After entering the world government, the leader of the world government also spoke forcefully to the 3 Marines in front of Admiral. This time, I really appreciate the help of the 3 of you. Advertisement. Next, if the 3 of you have any requests, I will definitely try my best to help you fulfill them. The why. After saying this, the leader of the world government also patted himself on the chest. Said that he would never lie. The words of the world government leader also made Marine 3 Admiral nod in satisfaction. I just heard that Akainu also spoke to the leader of the world government at this time. Quote. With your words on it. But don't be too cowardly. Because Monk will never stop there. This guy, delighted by Zhao, is the one who must take revenge. In the end, they will definitely come to us for the purpose of settling accounts. After saying this, he couldn't help laughing. After hearing what Akainu said, the leader of the world government also frowned and said to Akainu. Well, if that's the case, what's your opinion? May wish to say, now that both of us have cooperated. Then you don't have to hide it anymore. Quote. Advertisement. Chapter 350 Waiting for Akainu's answer. Advertisement. After saying this, he also looked at Akainu inquiringly, waiting for Akainu's answer. Akainu also smiled slightly at this time, and then spoke forcefully to the leader of the world government. We can't rush to take revenge on Monk now, we should strengthen ourselves. In my opinion, it is better to build the century government. The buildings on the world government side were also shattered a lot due to Monk's troubles. And many of your soldiers died too. Quote. The most important thing to do next is to gather the many soldiers. Then build the buildings here. At that time, it will be up to the few of us to work together, so that Monk can be guaranteed to pay the price. After 360 said this sentence, he also looked at the leader of the world government with burning eyes. After hearing what Akainu said, the leader of the world government nodded heavily. In his opinion, Akainu's words are very reasonable. Then everyone began to discuss. And Monk returned to the underwater world with many strong men. Advertisement. After returning to the underwater world, the warden also came to Monk with great doubts. Then he also asked Monk, Master Monk, why did you leave Bath so hastily? Because we have all the advantages here, even if we pay a certain price. The scourge of the leader of the world government should also be wiped out. Quote. Letting him go this time is tantamount to letting the tiger go back to the mountain. It will be very difficult to obtain such an advantage next time. After saying this, he also waited for Monk's answer. After hearing the warden's question, Monk also smiled slightly. Then he spoke forcefully to the warden. This time we can indeed pay a certain price and wipe out the world government leader and Marine 3 Admiral. But if the Marine 3 Admirals are just wiped out, then the Marines on our side will also betray. In that case, our battle situation will change. Quote. It would have been a different story if we had left at the time. Advertisement. After those Marines think slowly, they will think that Marine 3 Admiral has betrayed them. Even if we let these Marines deal with Marine 3 Admiral, they will not resist. Out of this consideration, I made the choice to retreat. Quote. After hearing Monk's words, the warden nodded heavily. Then he also let out a long sigh. Now that Monk is ready, there is no need for him to ask any more questions. Then they also bowed their hands towards Monk and left here. When Monk watched the warden leave, he also smiled slightly. Afterwards, he began to think about what kind of preparations he would have to make in order to get rid of the world government leader and Marine 3 Admiral together. In Monk's view, there are many strong people in the underwater world. Although there are many in number, their strength cannot meet the conditions for destroying the world government. So if Monk wants to deal with the world government, he must form another organization, thereby destroying the world government side. After thinking about it, Monk suddenly realized that he could build an organization on land. Advertisement.